So this album specifically, I would say all the albums up to this, it was more me actually thinking of what I'm saying. This one, I felt more was just channeled. The only thing I did was what I wanted to do with the lyrics in their format versus what totally is being said. I feel like I was just the hand that had the pen, and it just came out. It's what was in my mind that I didn't quite know how to form, and it formed itself.
Greetings, Legion. Welcome to episode 253 of Into the Necrosphere. This week, I am welcoming back to the podcast Mephisto Deleterio and Chrisum Infernium of Veilburner. Their new album, The Duality of Decapitation and Wisdom, was released on November the 15th by Transcending Obscurity Records. It is probably one of the best records they've ever put out, and who better to provide me with a director's commentary of each of the album's 7 tracks than the men responsible for producing it. That's going to be coming your way very shortly, but before we get to that, we have us a little musical interlude to get the juices flowing, courtesy of a band who should be very familiar to every single member of the Legion worth their salt. This is Heathen Deity with the title track off their brand new album, Satan's Kingdom.
Cuts
Satan's Kingdom is the name of the song. The band, unmistakably Heathen Deity, and that was taken off the album by the same name. Check it out on Bandcamp right now. It's available on Cult Never Dies, and if you like Heathen Deity, then stick around for the news rant later on, because Azrael and Dagon are sitting in on this week's metal news headlines. We're talking about some of the furore surrounding Impaled Nazarene and the Eindhoven Metal Meeting. We are also dissecting the latest in the ongoing saga of My Dying Bride, and of course rounding up the newest singles for Judgment. So that's coming up later on in the show. Before we go any further, though, I need to dispense of the weekly plugs. And of course, you should be aware that I am a card-carrying member, a blooded-in member of the Horsemen of the Podcasting Apocalypse, an elite unit of men dedicated to crushing mediocrity wherever we find it. We start your week every Monday with a new episode of Horrible 666, hosted by the inimitable Brandon Legion. On a Tuesday, yours truly casts hexes and slays poses on Into the Necrosphere. Next week, my plan currently is to have my very good friend Jeremy Wagner of Broken Open Earthburner back on the show. It has been a good long while since he's been on here. I think probably about 3 years. So I'm looking forward to catching up with him. I know you guys are going to be looking forward to hearing me talk to him as well. I've got something extra special, yet also extra secret planned for the end of the year, alongside 2 collaborators. More than that, I shan't share, but it's going to be a great way to round up a fantastic 2024. Moving on to a Wednesday, we have got Sensei Mike Hill giving you a new dose of Everything Went Black. Also on a Wednesday, we've got Cheyenne of the band Trivax giving you another installment of Iblis Manifestations. On a Thursday, Sensei Mike Hill returns alongside his co-hosts Sheriff Mike Scondado and Professor Jeff Kashid. Necromaniacs is the name of their podcast, and it is absolutely essential listening. They review new and old horror movies, and it is the perfect way to get you lined up, to get your entertainment agenda aligned for the weekend. Also on a Thursday, we have the first of 2 deployments of Soul Nox, a curated journey through the dark, the weird, the arcane, and the esoteric. The second installment comes your way on a Sunday, and of course that is hosted by none other than the sinister minister, the Reverend Carl Haikara. So that's the lineup. If you haven't done so already, make sure you are subscribed to us all. If the spirit moves you to do so, leave us a 5-star review, share the content with friends, foist it on enemies. Right now, though, sit back and welcome to the podcast for the second time, Chrisum Infernium and Mephisto Deleterio of Veilburner. But I think just to kind of kick things off, it's been, I think the last time we spoke was 2022, so it's been about 2 years.
Yeah.
Just life-wise, how's everything been going?
You go first, Dave.
Sure. Life-wise, things are going great. Things are steady. The world's opened back up again, so we're traveling, and we have a trip planned next year for we're going to go to Germany and Austria. Me and my wife and some friends.
Yeah.
So just job's going good. Music's going good. Been writing pretty steadily. Never really take time off from that. So we finish one album and then give myself a couple month break, and then get back into it. So yeah, I'm on cruise control life wise, and everything's good.
It's crazy to think actually how much things have moved on in 2 years' time. Like I think when we spoke, things had, we'd sort of just come out of the worst of all of the lockdowns and all of the nonsense.
Yeah.
And nowadays, it's like people don't even think about it anymore. They don't even, you barely hear a conversation about what life was like in 2021 or something like that. It's like it just didn't happen.
Yeah, well, that's something that I'm sure we all want to forget. So
yeah.
I think we're all doing our best to do that.
But dealing with the post-traumatic stress. Are you going to be, when you headed to Germany, are you adding anything to your collection? Because I loved when you showed it last time round, but so I was curious to see what the background was going to look like today. But are you adding any new pieces?
I haven't in the last couple of years, I've kind of ran out of room for stuff. So if I'm going to get something new, it means at this point, it means I have to get rid of something old. So, I mean, there's still some things that are kind of placeholders. Like I try to stay away from like mass produced stuff, like, you know, things that are made by artists, one of a kind stuff, like one of ones type of things. But yeah, sometimes if like I see something that's, you know, still kind of cool and kind of fits the vibe, I'll throw it in there. But at this point, I think if I find something new that I like and is, you know, genuine, you know, original piece, I'll think about, I'll like, you know, maybe take one of those older mass produced or Halloween store things and kind of, you know, take that out of the space and put the new thing in the space. But yeah, there was a couple of things I think I might have gotten. The one thing I got, like the photo shoot we did this time around with our new mask and props and everything. We had like, I actually brought it here in case you asked about it, but we used this knife in the recent photo shoots we did for the, you know, for the new album. I got this in Spain at an antique store, and it's like a Moorish knife. I don't know exactly how old it is. But you know, when the Moors invaded, you know, that area hundreds of years, they obviously brought a lot and left a lot of things. A lot of those things are collecting dust at antique stores. I don't know if this was like it doesn't seem like this was maybe used for like a weapon. It seems more like, I don't know, cutlery to me.
I'm about to say more ceremonial than anything else.
Yeah. So I don't know if you can get a really good look at it. It's really it's got a lot of patina on it. And I saw that over there, and it was one of the only things I could afford in the shop. So I was like, yeah, I'll take that. And the other thing that we got for the photo shoots, I found this. I have a couple of things from this artist, and I tried to remember her name. I can't remember her name, but I saw her. She always has a booth at like the oddities expos I go to, or the flea markets. She gave me her card once, and I misplaced it. I looked for it, so my apologies. But and there's my cat trying to you know, trying
to get on the action.
Yeah. But she does a lot with these like cool sort of like I don't know how you would describe it, but here's like a mannequin hand, and she put some claws on it, and it's got an eye in the middle of the hand.
That's very cool.
Yeah, and then she sort of posted it on, I don't know what this is she posted it on, but you know, it allows you to set it up or hold it. So when I thought of Chris's album title for this new one, the Duality of Decapitation and Wisdom, I was like, well, what are two props that we could use to kind of represent decapitation and wisdom? And then these, you know, so these were kind of the two I broke out for, you know, our photo shoot to sort of represent the two things in Chris's album title. So I thought it worked. I thought it worked pretty well. So I had those things on hand.
How much, out of interest, you mentioned going to like oddities markets and stuff like that. What would a rare piece typically go for at one of these markets? I'm just kind of curious to get a sense of, you know, sort of how much demand is there amongst, or how feverish are the people that actually collect this stuff, and how much are they willing to part with money wise to get something?
It really depends. Depending on the piece and how much it attracts people's attention, or how much time it took for the artist to create, to make it, and the materials involved. It could be several $100s, or it could be, knickknacks in like $40 or $50 range. Really all depends on what it is and how attractive it is. And again, things are only ever worth what people are willing to pay for them when you come right down to it. So.
So nothing quite as valuable as Hunter Biden's finger paintings or anything like that.
No.
Nothing quite as priceless.
No. Gotta keep it reasonable.
Yeah. Chris, how's everything been going with you?
Good. Status quo. Just reading, doing the work, focusing on Veilburner, trying to write. We finished 8, so I'm starting to formulate 9. I have some little ramblings here and there for each song, nothing too grounded. So I'm trying to work that out. I don't know if I mentioned it to you, but the other project, my live project that I was in, the drummer actually had an aortic dissection on stage. So that was last September in 2023. So we've been down and out on that. So I've just really been working every day, doing stuff with the wife, trying to get back into shape, and really just focusing on Veilburner and trying to craft another, what I believe is good album. So that's basically it.
The aortic dissection, what was the cause of that?
I think high blood pressure, unchecked high blood pressure, still in the 40s. So I figured, I don't know the whole story to it. I'm assuming he may not have known, he may have known. I don't know too many details, but it was literally at the end of a song, presented.
What happened?
He usually at the end of the song, there's a blast going, and I noticed him kind of stutter up, and then he's standing behind the kit. I thought that was a little weird, and he was complaining about his legs. So I checked him out, had him pushing on my thighs and stuff to see if he had any kind of strength in his legs. Did not. He could push though, and then he got up and he's like, "I need some water." Gave him some water, and then 10 minutes later, I heard he was put into a car and taken to the emergency room, which was great because somehow the nurse wanted to do a scan on him right away and saw the dissection, and that was probably what saved his life. If he would have stayed any longer, he'd probably be dead. So
Jesus.
He's walking without a cane and stuff now. The one leg's pretty atrophied, but I know his hope is to play again. So I have some of the recordings and stuff like that. So next time I get with Dave on album 9, I might track a song or two on that, but that's really put the other side of things aside, like, down for the count, so per se. So I'm just going to focus on Veilburner, which is good anyways, because that's usually where my mind's at. So
yeah. When you say he was in his early 40s, like how old exactly?
I'm 43, so I think he's 42. He'll be 43 in May. So yeah, he's young 40s.
Yeah, no, that is fucking nuts. And I mean, I have friends. I mean, I'm 45 now. 44 actually. I've got friends who are also starting to have to get medicated for high blood pressure and a lot of things like that. It's when the veil of invincibility tears, it's pretty disconcerting. I find that's part of being in your 40s. That's definitely something I've been very aware of.
I refer to it as that's when your warranty runs out, and how it is when your warranty runs out on your car. That's when everything starts breaking. So
yeah, no, exactly. It's perfect.
I call it gravity, and gravity is suffering because it just wants to pull you to the ground. Everything feels a lot more weighted, myself included.
Yeah, no, 100%. I remember when I spoke to you guys the last time, this record was already in the works, and I think from memory, you guys had actually done a fair bit, or had progressed along a fair bit when the previous record had come out. What was the reason for delaying until now to actually put out the follow-up to Veilburner?
I think, I mean, like I said, we keep writing. And like I said, we're several written wise, we're several albums ahead. But Kunal's running a business, and he has several transcending obscurity. He has several other artists in his stable that he has to give attention to and do proper promotion on and everything. So it's like, and we don't want to release the albums too quickly, because it's like I like the idea of giving people a chance to miss us. It's like you throw out too much all the time. People, they just get sick of you and wish you would just fuck off for a while.
Yeah. You don't want to oversaturate your audience with your material.
So it's perfectly fine with us that he staggers these things, a couple years apart, because it's all good for rebuilding anticipation for the next one. So he runs his label, puts out the other bands, and then we kind of quietly go away for a while, and then maybe every 2 years or something, when our little fan base might be wondering what we're up to, he announces the next one, and then we go through another round. It's nice and steady working that way. So I'm completely okay with it, with him staggering them.
And Chris, that conceptually gives you, I guess, more space to be able to kind of develop the kind of the lyrical concepts, the lyrical themes really to where you could be completely happy and comfortable with them?
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, it's a gift and it is a curse, because right now we're releasing 7 and I'm working on 9. So I have to try to stay grounded and remember that I do have 8 there too. So that I'm not revisiting 7 and missing out on that gap with 8, because the story continued from there. So we're talking about 7 so much now, the duality, that I just have to make sure that I keep everything in order. Because now that we're revisiting this album upon release, and I'm writing 2 albums ahead, it's just conceptually it's great, because I do have more time and I can really focus on certain songs to try to bring forward to revisit. And then there's other times where I might have jumped the gun a little bit on a possible angle or concept. So it's a gift and a curse, but ultimately I'd find it to be more the gift than the curse.
I'm about to say, when it comes to the curse, do you find yourself getting to, what they call in sports paralysis by analysis, where you kind of, you're overthinking something, or whether it's a particular line, particular song, whatever the case may be, so much that you're not making the kind of progress that you would normally want to make?
Yeah. And 2, I don't want to repeat things. So there are certain words that come up over and over again that I try to escape. But we all, even with music, you find certain notes that you just always come back to. Slayer, for example, they have 3 or 5 notes that they love playing, and they've played them for 40 years. So that's the same as lyrics. I like, and conceptually you have the abyss, you have void. They're kind of hard words to change, especially when they're so driven in a concept. But ultimately, I
was about to say, you're also rooting. It's not just like you're writing standard lyrics. You're also rooting a lot of your lyrics in a particular theme or in a particular concept. So to some degree, the repetition is almost unavoidable.
Correct. And I like to, as much as I like to use parables, metaphors, I do also like to have time where someone who doesn't understand any of that stuff and just wants to be a listener and see the lyrics, and they're just they like the music, they just like the band, they don't have to get into all the conceptual stuff, that they can still read it and understand it. Because it would be like, I'm not a big HP Lovecraft guy, so reading a lot of that stuff I get completely lost, and then I'm more chances are I'll put the book down, because I won't put the time in to try to learn it, because it's not something that I'm usually reading, versus mysticism or Kabbalah or Thelema. Like I'll be more interested to try to learn it. So I know that listeners are the same way, and people checking out lyrics, they might be into a certain genre, it might just turn them off. So I try to be conscious of everything.
Well, reading the lyrics on the new album, I mean, you've gone the way that I tend to prefer my lyrics, which is I like when lyrics are written in a relatively abstract way, whether they tie to a theme or not, but it's done in such a way that I can impose various of my own ways of thinking to it, or you can interpret it the way that you want to. You can take from it what you want to. I really, really like that. And if I take Let's take the first song as an example. You've got a line here which I particularly like: "Reveal that which was concealed, to watch the world end again." That to me is like a great example of it's a beautifully abstract piece which you can take so many different meanings from, depending on what angle you come at it from, without it kind of spoon feeding you the narrative, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and I mean, at the end of the day, the intentions are for the listener or anyone to manifest it their own way. I mean, at its core, there's reasoning behind it, but like myself, that grows over time. What that line might have meant to me today, 3 years down the road, might have developed into something else, and it might be more powerful, or it might be, not as powerful. But ultimately, anyone reading and is that interested in the lyrics, I want them to be able to go away with it, with their own ideas, be it just in generalizations of, hey, that's cool, or it sticks with them through the day, or gets them through something, or whatever it is, like that. If it has some sort of power and intention to someone, that's awesome.
Dave, how much of an overseeing role do you play in the lyrics as Chris develops them? Like, is he coming to you with lyrics and you saying, okay, I'm comfortable with that, we'll include it.
Yeah.
Like to which degree do you have what's your executive? We take a corporate phrase. What's your executive presence when it comes to Chris's lyrics?
He does send the lyrics over. I don't read nearly as much as he does, and he's the one, like, he's got his head around this stuff, so I try as much as possible to stay out of it. I might scan things briefly just to see if, like, maybe like what Chris was talking about before about using certain words too much. I might briefly scan for something like that, but him being the expert, and I at this point, 7 albums in, I'm at the point where I completely trust, what he comes up with, and I try not to meddle in it really at all.
What is it about the two of you? Because you guys, it struck me when we spoke last time as well. You seem to have a very, I'm trying to find the right word for it. Like, I don't know if telepathic is the correct way to say it, but you seem to have this kind of very effortless dynamic between the two of you creatively. Like, sometimes I'll speak to people on the podcast, and you get a sense that it takes work, as any relationship does, for that train to stay on the tracks, and that creates a tension of its own, which sometimes can also lead to really great art. But sometimes you come across people, as is the case with the two of you, where it just seems to be you really are like two puzzle pieces. It's like you were destined to meet up at somehow, and this relationship just kind of bears fruit without either of you really having to, unless you're about to tell me very differently, like really have to work, really have to compromise. No one has to take a lead and say, well, I'm the boss, and this. Tell me a bit about how that works, and why you think it works so well.
Luck. Mainly it's just, we've known each other for, at this point it's been over 20 years we've known each other, and a lot of it is what you were saying. It's just we happen to just kind of like there's a Venn diagram, those Venn with the circles and how much they overlap. It's like we're like a Venn diagram where there's a lot of overlap, but there's still like every time we go through an album, we always get hung up on the art, on like the artwork. Everything else seems to be effort. He's always good with the music I come up with, like no complaints, no suggestions, and I'm always good. We're like right in sync with that stuff. And then we get to the artwork, and then that's where we really kind of have to feel each other out, and that's where we have to do a lot of our diplomatic sort of suggestions. And
Chris is the guy that's like, I want 6 pentagrams on the album cover. It's cap it at 5.
Yeah.
I think honestly that the greatest collaborative art form is trust. Like that is the groundwork of it. And there's so many great musicians in this area, but there are very few that you can really put the trust in. With Dave, he can write, and when he writes, he brings everything to the table. So many people all over the world who are musicians say, yeah, I'll write an album in a month. And I'm like, you're going to write a song in a month, if that. You're older, you have a family. Like there's a reality to it all also. So we both stay out of each other's lanes because I feel like we both really trust each other to do the parts that we're doing. And we just so happen to like those parts that we're doing. And that's really hard, especially when you start getting a third person involved, a fourth person. Like now it becomes literally a democracy, and they seem to not always be the best between two parties. So and we're just fortunate.
And that's one of the reasons that we intentionally want to just keep it to 2 people. Chris brought up a very good point there, which is when you're in a band, like with 4, 5 guys, it's like trying to be married to 4 or 5 different people. And every time you add a person to the creative mix, it's like the complexity increases by by an order of magnitude. Suddenly it's one more person whose schedule you have to work around, one more person whose, you have to bounce your ideas off of to see if they're on board with it. One more personality that could potentially clash with the rest. So there's like beauty in simplicity, and I think a lot of times, I've noticed over the years, you actually have to work at keeping things simple. It seems like things get complicated all by themselves if left unchecked. Things will tend to just naturally get overcomplicated, and it's like you have to work to maintain a simplicity to keep things. Like for us, this is a sanctuary. This is where we go to get away from stressors and from the day. So it's like we don't want there to have all these stressors pop up in our project, because it's where we go to get away from it. Keeping things simple, keeping it just two people who just luckily happen to have a lot of overlap in taste it goes a long way to just sort of maintaining that that beauty and simplicity that I like to refer to it as.
It's interesting what you mentioned about artwork, though, because I have clearly underestimated the importance of artwork, because you're not the first person to say that I've read recently or that I've spoken to recently that artwork sometimes is a sticking point. I don't know whether you guys have been following the My Dying Bride saga, but part of the reason why they're on hiatus at the moment is because apparently Aaron Stainthorpe and Andrew Cragen can't see eye to eye on artwork for albums. And I was like, Jesus, I was like, I never thought that it could be such a big deal. But then again, I guess it's sort of, that's one of the first things that people see when it comes to, selecting a record, or that's how that's what's meant to represent the art. So it's just, I think probably from my side, I'm potentially just undervaluing it. But I was curious when you mentioned that. It's like, that's not you're not the first person to say that.
Yeah.
Honestly,
go ahead, Chris.
Go ahead. I was going to say, ultimately, a lot of times in anything that I'm doing musically, I almost, because I'm doing lyrics, I feel like I'm a gatekeeper in the worst possible way, because I want to see the lyrics and the concept come through. So I sometimes overlook the fact that there is another person involved with it and might have their own ideas in mind. So for like all the other albums, we went with what we went with. We're happy with them, but with this one, with Luciana, when I saw this artwork, it really called back to a lot of the stuff that Dave has shown me in the past. It just has a different feel about it. The characters that are involved with it, it kind of played more to what I've seen Dave send me over. So there was, for my end, this symbolism and everything was spot on, but I feel like the way that it's drawn and the colors, it spoke more to a union between Dave's ideas and mine this time around than what we have. There was sacrifice in the past. On this, there wasn't.
Was it a piece of artwork that you commissioned, or was it artwork that you found?
It was artwork that actually I found. I came across her, so did the work with her. Probably going to work with her again. She's amazing, a super cool person. I haven't gotten to speak to her personally, just through messaging and stuff, but she seems like an A+ person, and trying to get her artwork out there as much as I can. I will, because she deserves it. And it looks like she's starting to do more and more commissioning for art. So I'd like to continue with her, but also I don't want to overpopulate, the art world with everyone using the same artist. So that's another thing too, just always trying to look ahead also and find other people, because artistically I'm burned out on, I like doing the album designs, but doing album covers, I've kind of gotten burned out on that. So
yeah. Chris always had the tough job with that, because he was the one like either doing the photoshopping or coming up with everything. I was always the one just giving feedback. So I've always tried to be cognizant that he's the one doing the hard work here. Let's really work to find something we both like. Let's don't be critical or whatever. But yeah, that was it was always sort of a all right. The music we got through that. No problems. The lyrics spot on as usual, and then it's time for the artwork, and then that's when we had to sort of work on the back and forth to get to a place where we both liked it. And Chris was always in the hot seat of that, because he could spend like 3 hours mocking something up, send it over to me, and then I'd be like, maybe not or something. And it's like, you feel bad. I feel bad doing it because I know how much work he puts into this, but he's been a champ through, everything I put him through, with this art. But I love the artwork that Chris found, and he took the initiative to get in touch with the artist and work out everything with her. And when I saw it too, I was like, yeah, that's really good. So that's this time around, that seemed to be the place where we found that common ground is in this artwork with her.
So just so I know, Chris, have you done all of the artwork up to and including the previous record, and then this one is the first time you've gone away to an external artist? Was that intentional?
Yeah, because like I said, I was just burned out. Just do it because I did it for other projects. I would do stuff on the side for other bands. I would try to help out some locals a lot of times with logos and stuff like that. And I just, at this point, it's kind of like playing guitar. I can write a riff, but I can't play guitar anymore. And I've chosen that because I'd rather focus on what I feel like I can do best, which is vocals and lyrics. And the lyrics are first and foremost, followed by the vocals. So, I mean, the art and the layout, that's easy, but also we've been fortunate with the photos. We have a friend who does a lot of videography. He's doing stuff for Vitriol now. I know he did Dying Fetus, Dylan Stern Courtney, amazing photographer and videographer. And then my wife actually has done the majority of our photos. So she gets the joy of going out with us at local state parks and taking pictures of us in garb while you have some
hikers and families.
Hikers, and specifically of all times on a Sunday, a nice Mennonite family coming over the rocks and looking down on us with a knife in hand. And my wife's like, look, this is a photo shoot. It's fine. It's fine. And they're like, we're going to go on that trail. We're out. That's like, this way, children.
Well, this one, I think the concept, like the visual concept for this definitely stepped up. It was stepped up in how lavish it was. Again, I keep coming back to this phrase of, choosing my words correctly. But yeah, this seemed to be really, really kind of very fleshed out. The previous one looked cool. It sort of had it sort of had almost a Mad Max kind of vibe to it. This one is just completely unique, just completely. It's very self-contained, which I want to talk through the songs on the record as well. But it feels to me like this is very much in terms of how you're presenting the concept, how you're presenting Veilburner, this feels to me like a more confident record than the previous one, really, than anything that you guys have done before.
Yeah, thanks. It's I think, Chris, you were the one who, like, for the masks for this one, you were the one who found the artist who made those masks, right? And then you reached out to him and worked on, because it was his design, and then he had them in a different color, like the face was a different color. So we reached out to him and said, like, hey, we love these masks. Or Chris reached out to him and said, hey, we love these masks. We were wondering if you could do 2 more, but here's the color we were thinking of, and it was against sort of his original vision for the color of the characters he was creating masks for, but he, money talks. he agreed to do it. And, he sent them, and then me and Chris worked on, okay, what sorts of outfits would characters like this wear, and where would you see them? And we came up with, it seems like I didn't want anything sort of man-made in the picture. They'd sort of like exist sort of out in like the rocky wilderness, like, was kind of what I was thinking. And then we looked at Etsy to see, all right, what sorts of outfits would they wear? And they were all from different people, like on Etsy. Those gloves with the claws, and and like the brown wraps for the hands and the lower legs, and we had that sort of wrap we threw around the robe and everything. But we always try to go for, because a lot of bands do masks now. So we try to stay cognizant, and maybe we want it to always be a step above like a Halloween store thing. We don't want it to be something you could walk into a Halloween store and see on a rack. We at least want to go at least one step up and make it something that would be difficult to track down, so that they kind of get associated with our characters, and you don't see them, all over the place. I think the one exception we had to that was from album 3, The Obscene Rite. We did that was our black and gold color scheme, and we just went with traditional Venetian masquerade masks, like those metallic ones, just the gold sheen. Those, you can find pretty much anywhere. But we went with they just matched what we were going for. We want like gold metallic and blacks, and they just look perfect. But ever since then, other than that album, we always try to, go with something custom.
I'm just busy looking at the photos again, though. This last series of photos, where did you take them? Was when you were referring to the park earlier? Were you referring to this photo set?
Yeah. That's almost anywhere. Anywhere we went was in a public setting. It was kind of hard to in any of our photo shoots. I think the first album we did at the end of my street where a school was, and the school was brought down, so it was just rubble. And there was at one point the cops were called. There was, I think, a brain in a jar. He has a green, Knights of Malta or Columbus. Definitely had the hood and everything, if you know what I'm getting at. I'm like, oh Christ, we're done. We're done. And yep, here come the cops. But yeah, this was Sam Lewis State Park, which is 10 minutes down the road from me now. So it's they have all these nice rock formations, and they're scattered all through their trails. So even you could go on like their blue trail, and within 30 minutes you come across another cluster of them. So it is otherworldly if you do it right. And
luckily,
I was about to say, what a perfect way to kind of flesh out the palette as well, of your outfits, because you got this really sort of beautiful, almost bronze, sort of autumn bronze of the leaves and the rocks, and it just fits in, ties in perfectly with the palette of your outfits. This visually to me, this really knocks it out of the park as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, Chris, that was the second place or the third place we went to. We tried another place that Chris and Aaron were thinking of, and then I got there. Now they had seen it a few weeks prior, but now, and this was in the spring. So by the time we got out there a second time, we already saw some flowers starting to bloom. Like some posies or whatever kind of flowers they were growing in that wooded area. And I was looking at it and I was like, yeah, a couple of weeks ago, this might have been great, but now it looks a little too flowery. And I don't know.
Not quite black metal.
Yeah, I thought this is going to come off. I started thinking it's going to come off more as like, a stroll through the, Veilburner stroll through the meadow or something, skipping and holding hands. So I'm like, maybe not this. But then we went on to the third place and I was like, oh, this is perfect. And that's where we got like a majority of the shots. So,
which was
there.
Which was the first place that my wife recommended. And I was like, no, we're going to go down here because it's going to be better. And they weren't. Neither one was. So she was correct.
Yeah. Does she do any photography? Apologies, Dave. Does she do any photography for other bands?
No, she just does. She likes taking pictures. She does a lot of stuff in the wilderness, went on hikes. She likes old buildings. She always wants to go into abandoned, dissident buildings where they're probably, I have to try to go with her. So she loves that kind of stuff, rubble and just places you shouldn't be in. But she did her first exhibit here at a cafe, and she does artwork also, which she's just an all around good artist, but phenomenal photographer. I understand composition. I could take a picture and it looks like shit. She takes a picture of shit and it looks like gold. So I don't know how she does it. Like, it's gleaming perfect. It's, no editing. She's really good. I try to tell her she needs to do more because I think she would definitely succeed if she put more effort into it of just trying to get out there.
And she gave us good direction too. Like when we were posing in our costumes, she's got that eye to say, Chris, move a little bit more to the left, Dave, turn your head maybe just a little bit more upward, a little bit more. And so, which I like because I'm like a deer in headlights out there. I don't know.
Oh, I'm about to say, you're saying we just need to get this over and done with before the authorities are.
Yeah, I'm
before the authorities are alerted.
Yeah, I'm normally stiff in front of a camera anyway. I mean, it's it's one of the reasons, one of the many reasons I don't, like to perform live on stage anymore, because I got that anxiety. But yeah, but she, I feel totally comfortable, in her hands, following her directions, because then I see, the photos that she comes away with, and I'm like, yeah, they're really good.
One thing before we touch on this, the lyrics and the concept of this record, you were talking about overused repeat words. I have many bugbears when it comes to this, things that I don't want to hear ever again in any lyrics in any band. But I'm just curious now, as you brought it up, both question to you, Dave, and to you, Chris. What are some of the tropes or the phrases in extreme music and metal that you want to see eradicated forevermore?
Chris, you can go first, because this is more your area.
I'm trying to tread lightly because there are many bands of the past that I hold in high regard, Deicide being one of them. Greatest death metal vocalist ever, I think, in line with George Fisher and Travis Ryan now. But the lyrics started to get to a point where they were just what they are. And it's kind of like the basic Satanist bash Christ stuff that I've grown out of. I can appreciate the music and appreciate the vocals, but just lyrically, those kind of bands, I have a hard time getting completely behind it. And, but I still hold them, like Vital Remains Christianized. Again, I mentioned that last time. Like I still listen to that on repeat, like it's yesterday. So
I always thought that Glenn's lyrics on the first three records, I think, are actually a lot smarter than people give him credit for. It's on the later records that I think they really dumbed down a lot. Because if you check out a song like "Repent to Die," I wouldn't even call it satanic as much as it is just a very strongly atheistic stance. He's got the "go fuck your God" will be my final words. But I mean, even the way that that's written, to die is just the concept of living, to be forgave, salvation blessed with pain, endeavored is the blame of creation. I mean, there's a poetry to it. There's some of that abstractness that I like. And as I said, it's not this sort of this overtly satanic thing. It's really more of a very atheistic statement. It's later on that I feel like he dropped the ball. I'll throw one in before Dave. You can table one. And again, I say it in the same vein that you're doing, Chris, where there are a lot of bands that have done these sorts of things that I really, really like. So I'm not trying to insult anybody. I'm just fucking sick of it. But the whole trope of "I am the blank" that bands bring in, like, I mean, they'll build an entire song around "I am the storm," "I am the vengeance," and it's like it's at a point now where I actually just if a new song like that comes up, I'm listening to it on the news Rant, it's just an instant skip, garbage. I cannot fucking hear that sort of thing anymore. It sounds like a 13-year-old acting out. Somebody's been roughed up at school and now they're pissed off at home and writing the most, juvenile, hateful shit that they can possibly think about. I can't stand it any longer. You will never, no, don't ever judge me. That's another one. Anything to do with personal judgment of any kind, that has to go as well. If I took over as president of any particular country, I would immediately outlaw those two things. That'd be my first executive order. No more lyrics like that. But Dave, I could see you were getting excited. What were you going to add?
The only thing I was going to add was that it's not so much specific things, but because anything can be used in an inspiring sounding way or just a overused, dull kind of way. So rather than focus in on any one sort of trope or phrase, it's just, I tend to try and just digest, was this done in an inspired way, or is this just somebody who's just had nothing else to say and just wanted to rattle off, something that they thought would sound edgy or something that they thought would sound cool without there being any meaning behind it. you give the same sort of concept or phrase to one person, and they might make gold out of it. You give it to somebody else, and it can just be cringe. So it really just all depends.
I would agree with that. You mentioned Dying Fetus earlier, Chris. They're a great example of a band that takes incredibly dumb knuckle-dragging lyrics and makes it sound absolutely brilliant. So, then that goes all the way back to the first album, Purification Through Violence. If you read those lyrics, they're horrible. I mean, it's genuinely, it's not even like Cannibal Corpse lyrics where it's gore and it's horrible lyrics. But I still love them. I'll always have a soft spot for them. Mm-hmm. All right, but let's talk about something a bit more highbrow, and that is the lyrics for and the concept around the duality of decapitation and wisdom. First of all, on a scale of 9 to 10, how impressed were you that I had picked up the 7-minute connection after the second single? There was surely not anyone that had spotted that before I had done.
You were like, if I remember correctly, you were the second. There was like somebody who commented on you were somebody on one of our Facebook.
Okay.
Or one of our Facebook posts, I think, mentioned that, and we were like, "Wow, only after 2." And then, like, really, it was just like immediately after that, you had uploaded the episode of whoever it was you were, whatever episode it was where you were talking about the album, and then you noticed that, and I'm like, all right, Jackie's got a good eye too. That's 2. But I think we now back in August when we announced the album, and we usually do we do a write up for Kunal's press release that he includes when he sends his stuff out. I think we might have mentioned that in as part of like the press release for the album that we did 7 songs, each one 7 minutes.
I didn't even.
Yeah, I don't know how many people even read it though.
Yeah.
But it was
when I first, sorry for interrupting you, but when I first heard the new music, it was actually just literally spotting it on Metal Storm. I was like, oh shit, there's a new Veilburner out. And I loved the previous album, so I was very excited about hearing this one. But yeah, so I didn't see any press release, nothing like that. It was just something that kind of popped up.
Yeah, that idea came about. I was a couple songs into writing the music, and like I started noticing that. Well, okay, the first song came in right around 7 minutes. This song came in right. That's another thing I try and keep cognizant of when I'm writing is I don't want to like Chris, not trying to repeat myself too much. That goes with I always look at the length of the songs I'm writing. Does that mean that I'm sort of defaulting to a sort of like a assembly line song structure? Because if that's the case, I want to not beat that to death. But I noticed that, and I was like, okay, they're both coming in right around 7 minutes. Hey, this is our 7th album. How about we try and do something with that? And then that's when sort of the light bulb. Now, Chris didn't hear any of the music before I had finished writing the whole album. It was like the first time I had done that to him. In fact, he didn't even know I was writing an album. I told him I was just going to take a break for a while. I thought I'd surprise him. But yeah, I said, okay, let me see if I can, after those first 2 songs, let me see if I can maybe make a thing out of this for the 7th album. I know Chris will love it because he loves, it would really give him something to wrap his head around as far as the concept of 7. And obviously my reference point to it all was Iron Maiden's 7th Son of a 7th Son, how it was their 7th album, and then they made that part of like the theme. So I decided to do it, but I gave myself a rule. If it starts sounding forced, if it starts getting in the way of, like I say, they have to be good songs first. I don't want the songs to be dragged out just to meet that 7-minute time mark. I don't want to shorten them if it sounds like they should go longer. I'll see how I do, and I'll completely abandon the idea if I start having to juggle things too much to make it fit, because that's the last thing I want. But I was fortunately, I only, most of it was natural. There was only a couple of places I had to do some slight, nudging of things a little bit, or maybe like extending,
massaging to get it into the.
It's like perfect massaging things. Maybe extending the outro just a little bit to hit that mark. But they were all coming in either a little under 7 or a little over 7. So I'm like, well, since I'm in that headspace, and let's go. And I'm surprised how well it worked out. It's everything's still got that natural flow from one song to the next, which is of vital importance to us.
So the one thing that I did read about this album was, Chris, your comment about this being, you really feeling like this is your magnum opus, lyrically speaking. So help set the stage for how this album starts and what the kind of that foundation of the concept is. Because you're also somebody who, as we spoke previously, you're not someone who necessarily even with the records follows a linear path when it comes to establishing that narrative or telling the story. But talk me through the first track.
So the first track's Tem Op Ab and Mysticum. That's Baphomet backwards. It's a cipher. It's basically, may there be peace within the temple of the Father, or peace be with the Father. It's a Gnostic term. It's been all over, so won't get too much into that, but I'm using it from it actually representing a cipher, looking at the image of Elvis Levi's picture of Baphomet. And that kind of ties in with the rest of the album, because it really sets... There's certain phrases and lines. One of the ones that you mentioned that is a repeat, in a sense, to 6 and even to 4 and 5. Because this album, 6 is sort of representation of a period in the abyss, like first entering into it. But this album almost kind of ties directly to the end of 4 and 5, or what would have been considered the middle of 4 and 5, because the end point, was at the end of 4 with the fate of this character. And this picks up sort of where they are conceptually at that point, following into the abyss, and now coming across certain characters that could arise in there, different concepts and such. So it works with the chakra points. It works with a lot of the mysticism of Rahu and Ketu and Vedism. They're the nodes of the moon with Vedic astrology. Rahu is the head and Ketu is the body. So it works some of that stuff into it, but 7 ultimately is very much in the lyrics. I won't give it away, but it's the only album I'll ever do like this. And there are certain parts that if someone realizes it, won't match up, but it is a callback to 6 and other albums.
Mm-hmm.
So if people are that wrapped into the concept, they'll and understand the things, or even don't understand it and start playing and creating their own way to it, it will make more sense to them in the end.
How deep do you find that your fans, that people that listen to the band, how deep do the Veilburner fans actually get into the concept of each of these records?
I think there's a couple of people that seem to always be on it and wanting to see it, and just like the the puzzle, trying to figure it out. And then others, it seems like as always, with anything, they're just there for the music. They like how the vocals sound. They're not too involved with the lyrics, and that's fine too. So I think it's a mixed pot, on what people are willing to do it. But there seems to be a core group of folks that really try to figure us out.
So we move on then to the second track, 3 visions of hex-shaped hiss behead the howling spirit. And again, line that really sticks out to me here is never to be a violation of existence, but a volition of wisdom. Tell me more about that track.
So that is a perfect representation of the album cover. If you see that the serpent is coming out of the neck of the individual, the priest, whatever you want to call it. Basically, when you take the throat chakra, that would be entering into the temple, the head. So it's literally saying the altar of the serpent is between the head and the neck, which could also represent the pineal gland if you wanted to, in line with the skull. So it goes into your basic principles of that, mysticism, the general rules of it all, and what I've come to find through it. And basically, you should not leave this world thinking that you've known it all. You'll always be growing and you'll always be learning.
Yeah, that's saying about the more I know, the less I know.
Correct.
Yeah.
Hey Chris, is it 3 visions or ill visions?
Oh yeah, it's ill visions.
Oh,
Oh,
sorry.
No.
I'm reading it off a track listing that's got it down, looking like
I
3.
know we had the bad luck of having that word with a capital I and then followed by 2 lowercase
2 L's.
Yeah,
and it looks like the Roman numeral 3, but
Yeah.
Which
I couldn't
thought,
escape it.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm about to say you are correct, though. Dave, one of the things I picked up about the riffing on this record is you definitely you were more unrestrained, I think, than you've been on albums previously, as far as a lot of the sort of avant-garde stuff, the real off-the-wall stuff, throwing it, using different effects, different elements in the way that you construct your riffs. But I love the fact that you do always bring it back, as I said on the news rant, to something that's concrete and something that's kind of powerful, and that it has that sort of, the I guess the core of why we all like metal. But you also felt like you were a lot more, you gave yourself a lot more creative leeway with the music on this record. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely. The metaphor that I like to use is like somebody is like a circus performer walking a tightrope. Like, I always feel like that's what I'm doing. I want, if you stray too far to one side or the other, it's like you're going to fall off and everything's going to come crashing down. So I'll go off on like little, like sort of artistic passages or create, things that are kind of off the beaten path. But then it's like I'll always have that in the back of my mind. Okay, don't get too self-indulgent here. Where is this going? Maybe sort of corral everything back in at a certain point to, get people back on board, so that, or else you're just going to fly off up your own self-indulgent asshole. That's how I like the phrase. So it's just me trying to like give myself some leeway and room, but still remember that go somewhere with it. Like go be going in some direction with it, instead of just don't become scatterbrained, I guess. And thinking of like the last album, like the 5th album, I was constrained because I was trying to write to, that whole concept we were doing with 4 and 5 that we talked about last time. It's like, okay, I'm kind of married to that, so the songs have to kind of go in a certain direction. 6, I was happy to get out of that. I felt like things were a little bit more single based. Like it was more of like and I try not to do this, but more of like a collection of songs rather than a flowing story. So with this one, I wanted to get back to, okay, I have no constraints or restrictions other than the one I came up with for myself, which is keep everything 7 minutes. But now let's go a little bit more back into the artistic side of things, and a little bit less into the straightforward single end of things. A comparison I can draw would be like, let's say Mastodon had like their Crack the Sky concept album, but then they also had like The Hunter, which is a lot more, shorter songs. They're more like catchy singles sort of thing. So if 6 were like our version of The Hunter, 7 would be closer to like our version of what Crack the Sky was to Mastodon.
Gotcha. So we move on then to the Duality of Decapitation and Wisdom, and we can cover both parts because track 3 and 4, parts 1 and 2. Again, line that stands out here to me instantly is, until one understands that he who calls out the snake as evil is also the very same thing himself. Let me ask you this question, Chris, and I'm coming at this as a complete and utter layman. The concept on this record, how much of this is informed by your reading, or as as sort of background in, or how much is informed in the material that you're referencing versus your own interpretation, if that makes sense?
So this album specifically, I would say all the albums up to this, it was more me actually thinking of what I'm saying. This one, I felt more was just channeled. The only thing I did was what I wanted to do with the lyrics in their format versus what totally is being said. I feel like I was just the hand that had the pen, and it just came out. It's what was in my mind that I didn't quite know how to form, and it formed itself.
Mm-hmm.
As cliche as that can be, I had the concept, I had the idea, but there's just certain things that were happening that basically the title wrote itself years ago, and all the words came when we started writing this. Once we had all the ideas and intentions we had in mind for the Easter eggs and such to work out, it just flowed.
So, what sort of things happened? Like, what was the catalyst for coming up with the idea of the duality of decapitation and wisdom?
So I had that song. I had that title for years now, and had wanted to use it, but it just felt like it was right for this album. And I'm trying not to give stuff away, because within the title, it will actually use that title, the album title, as a cipher, also as to cracking the code of what is going on in the lyrics, their formats, and anything else that's happening with it. And also, I was at that time, the reading I was doing was on the Agories and Vedic astrology, and came across Rahu and Ketu and that story. And with what I had, the intentions of what 4 and 5 were, aside of the ghouls, the lunacy, and the lurkers, was that this character would have lost their head. So I had that in my mind to play forward on this when I knew we could use the duality of decapitation and wisdom and do it right. Because I wanted to use that title so many times, but I didn't feel like anything that I was coming up with for any project was doing the title justice.
Mm-hmm. The gist of what you're saying to me is that if the world comes to an end and a civilization were to discover human remains, and they find a Veilburner, they find a Veilburner lyric sheet, they're going to go, "This is it. We've cracked the secrets of the universe."
Or they're going to say, "We're fucked."
So moving on to Shadows of a Shadow, just a question that popped into my head whilst you were talking about this. Is there there must be a real satisfaction for you, Dave, in having your music interpreted in a concept that is this complex and is this thoughtful? Because in many ways, I could be reading too much into it, but I almost feel like it's a compliment to your work as a musician for Chris to come in and actually, as I said, put so much thought and so much time into crafting something that ends up suiting the music as beautifully as it does.
Oh, I'm over the moon about it. I'm absolutely over the moon about it. I mean, that's what I always loved about the bands that that inspired me, is how much thought and they put into like there are themes and concepts and sort of like world building. Like, for example, like Nile with their whole everything is about like ancient Egyptian mythology, or even with bringing up Iron Maiden again, everything Bruce Dickinson writes is inspired by some work of literature. And I mean, even without knowing anything about the mythology, if I can go back to like the Duality of Decapitation, there's that pair of title tracks, the Duality of Decapitation and Wisdom Parts 1 and 2. Like that title that he came up with, even without me understanding anything about the mythology, was absolutely freaking perfect for me, because when I was writing those two songs, I had intended for them to be like a part 1 and part 2. But if you listen to the music, you'll pick up that there is like an ascending melody and a descending melody throughout those. It's like that da-na-na-na, da-na-na-na, and then later on it goes da-na-na-na, da-na-na-na, which I was kind of thinking in my head like as two opposing forces sort of fighting against each other for dominance. And in the end, like at the end of the first of the two tracks, it's like that ascending melody wins out. And then sort of like the next 7 minutes, this second part of the title track is like a victory lap for like, because for that, the descending melody doesn't appear anymore in the second one. You just hear the ascending melody sort of taking like a victory lap. So when he came up with the Duality of Decapitation and Wisdom, I'm like, that is absolutely perfect, because to me that sort of sounds like the two opposing competing forces in those two songs that I was kind of envisioning but didn't have words when I was writing, but didn't have words to.
Gotcha. Yeah. So on Shadows of a Shadow, Chris, talk me through where we're at in the concept on this by the time we've reached the song.
So this is where the actual confrontation takes place. And the original title was A Shadow of a Shadow. And I guess this one would be the perfect way to really see and go, wait, I thought I figured this out with the cipher. And it's the first callback to album 6 specifically. And I changed the title to Shadows of a Shadow to reflect that. And also, unknowingly, when we were recording, I say Shadows of a Shadow instead of A Shadow of a Shadow. And looking back on it, it worked out with the concept even more than what I first intended with A Shadow of a Shadow. Because like I said in the past, earlier, basically, you should never stop learning. And even once you think you've learned it all, there's something else that comes. And there will always be more layers to everything. You have to just keep peeling it back. And each time you do, you should recognize that you learned something before in it, but now you've been enlightened to something else. And it's just this constant work. And that's what Shadows of a Shadow really represent. It's the layers involved of existence, of the psychology of the individual, and the accomplishments, the loss, the pain, the suffering, everything as all together of everyone you've ever met, all those negatives, all wrapped into one, trying to battle out with you and you trying to overcome that and pushing forward and how you were able to achieve that.
And then on track 6, in this weird, and again, this is how I'm reading it, it's like you bring a lot of these very sort of high level concepts and ideas into the real world to a certain degree. And why that's how I read it is I read the last lyric on that song, your God haunts a world where he doesn't belong, shouldn't exist, nothing but a ghost whose image is made to worship. I kind of feel like in some ways, as I'm interpreting it, you're bringing a lot of the ideas from the first 5 tracks into our present time and into the thinking about the sad state of the world and religion's place therein.
Yeah, this song specifically, it was what I call our banger. Like it's the most rhythmic, I believe, on the album. It was one that it fits into the concept. It is a really, really old throwback to the first album with Masturbating the Obelisk, which was basically this book I had read. I wish I would remember the author because I wanted to actually get the book again. But it was basically the idea that Egypt and Rome were both fledgling at the same time. They came together, Rome creating the Pope, and they would use the Egyptian mystery Babylon religion and basically conquer the world that way, since they were both basically shit in the bed and what existing as a country would be. And so this follows suit to what is the aftermath of that. And really, you have all these different religions coming forward, specifically Christianity after that with the Inquisition and going door to door, basically telling you, you're going to worship our God or you're going to die. And that's even with today, with everyone battling with their religions, not understanding specifically Christianity, that, most people in the world will seek that out. I would rather go to a synagogue or find even a Muslim because they're not seeking me. It seems like the Christians lose sight of that. It's like the biggest pyramid scheme in the world. And I think that there are true Christians out there that have faith, and there's a difference between faith and being a Christian to me. I don't think there's anything wrong with any of the religions. I think you should find it or subconsciously speaking, it will find you, but not by someone knocking on your door saying, this is the Jehovah's Witnesses. We'd like to speak with you.
Yeah, pyramid scheme is a great way of putting it when you think about it. They really do operate like a multi-level marketing company. They feel the need to go out and recruit people and then put those people to work recruiting other people and so on and so forth until, eventually things like that always collapse under their own weight and there's a backlash.
What's your view of religion and of Christianity in society nowadays, Chris? Just out of interest.
Right now, specifically with us being in the States, I think it's at a very dangerous level, because I think that people, it's like your God haunts a world that doesn't, who shouldn't belong, doesn't exist. That's basically going against all the religions and looking at it as going, well, my God's better than your God. It's like, actually, no one's God's better than anyone's God. You keep your God to yourself, or to those who are seeking it. I'm not seeking it, so don't come to me. Don't judge me. And with today being in the States, there's this, political side of things that are taking that idea and really morphing it into what it never was intended to be. And I think Christianity for someone can be a great thing. I think any of the religions, they're books of wisdom. They should help you along your path. They shouldn't be weaponized. And I think today, now more than ever, it's being weaponized. And I think it's a callback to World War II. And before that, you have other religious wars. I just think that people are taking their own ideas, throwing it into it, and distorting it. And that's what I see is the biggest problem. It's an extremely dangerous problem, depending on which way that it goes.
Yeah. I've spoken to a lot of people about this, and I've had different views on it over the years. But I do feel like there's a point to be made around the minimization of maybe calling it more traditional religion religious practices is not quite doing it justice, but either the more traditional religious, or the way that religion used to be practiced. I mean, that had its own faults. And when I say traditional, I mean, near-term tradition, not the Dark Ages. I feel like that as that has been minimized, I feel like it's created a vacuum, and that vacuum has been filled with other things that are equally toxic. Things that aren't even rooted in anything religious, but the adherence to those things is done with religious fervor. And it's because ultimately, I just think the sad reality of the human condition is a lot of people need something that they can cling on to. They need something that gives them purpose in life. They need something that provides them with some sort of what their perceived light in the darkness. And it doesn't, it ends up, you bring it back to politics. In modern society, in 2024, in the West in particular, that it's ended up being political, both, left or right. People are kind of holding on to their political views now with this weird religious fervor, and they, when you break it down, I've spoken about this many times before, they analyze politics in and of itself in such an infantile way. It almost has, having grown up with a lot of religious nuts, it almost has that way that people would interpret the Bible that I witnessed growing up. It's not somebody that's thinking about it with any degree of advanced intellect. They are literally just saying, these people are bad, these people are good, and that's the end of it. These people deserve to go to hell, quote unquote. Whatever bad, disastrous fate is supposed to meet that person, and we're great, and we should, we're entitled to everything that's good in life.
And that, I was going to say that has a direct. That's a direct result of people's beliefs being driven much more by emotional need, and much less by the intellectual or the irrational side of the brain. It's why very smart or intelligent people can fall into cults, even though they're intelligent enough to pick out scams. They just get to a point in their life where they need to believe something so much because it's so important for them to keep, to their, how do I want to phrase it? I'm sorry, I get tongue-tied once in a while. But
they need to feel like they belong somewhere, because I think you hit the nail on the head there with aligning it to a cult. I watched a documentary about Heaven's Gate a while back, and I sat there thinking to myself, like, if you look at the people that were in the Heaven's Gate cult, a lot of those people seemed on the surface to be pretty intelligent people, but they could, you could meet one of them many of them had come from backgrounds where they were pretty successful in their lives, and you look at it and you go, how could you fall for the bullshit that Marshall Applewhite was selling?
Yeah,
but I think there's this deep need at a very, kind of core emotional level for people to feel like they're involved in some of that they belong somewhere, and that they've got that sense of community and sense of purpose, and that's how they get pulled into all sorts of crazy nonsense.
And I think it would take a certain amount of intelligence to then take that need to believe and figure out, build the sort of brick by brick, build the rational side of it to it's happening again. So I can't think this morning. I'm sorry, guys. But like
mental inoculation, Gadsad called it once, which I think is the right way to describe it.
I don't know. But it's like they need to sort of come up with, okay, well, this is true. How is it true? What's the mechanism by which this could be true? And I think it takes a certain amount of intelligence to sort of build that sort of wall.
Yeah.
You think of people with emotional needs and how they build a wall around them to sort of protect themselves. Well, the intelligence side of it is building the wall of the mechanics of how it could be true. I think people who believe in flat Earth, for whatever reason, they just have this emotional need to believe that the Earth is flat, and they'll use the other side of their brain to come up with the analytics and to come up with the mechanism for how that could be true. So it's like they have this need at the center of them, which is driving the need to believe, and then they sort of flesh it out. They build that wall around them with with their quote unquote evidence, or what they consider to be evidence.
Wasn't there that lunatic that shot himself up into the sky 30 or 40 feet or something in his rocket and came crashing back down to the ground? And
well, he might be the exception. He might be the exception. There might not be very much intelligence there.
No, but all right. So we get to the final track on the record. I'm going to probably mispronounce this, but Voward Ignimus Icon. Chris, take us away on how the album concludes.
That was the hardest song title to come up with, because I wanted the last song like we had with 6. The opening track was VI, or 6 for Vulgar Incantations. This is sort of the follow-up to that, which would be 7. So I need a VII, and I'm like, Ichnumen, Parasitic, okay. Voward, I took the D off of Devoured. I'm like, okay, that sounds cool. Voward Ignimus Icon, got it. And basically just go through the closing point of it, which is, again, it's you can go left, you can go right. Where am I at? And it's just sort of taking everything and the realization of what has happened with 3 and 4, 3 being the first, the Duality of Decapitation Wisdom, part 1 being basically the ritual. And 4 is basically the aftermath of that ritual that goes into 5 with the confrontation. 6 is it's in the concept, but not so much tied directly to this. And then, so where does song 5, Shadows of a Shadow, leave off? And it's with 7, and it's basically just the contemplations and everything that go into, do you want to keep going? Do you want to stop? What am I doing here? Have I concluded? What is this? And so that's where 8 will come into play and continue suit. So,
and so 8, we touched on it earlier. I mean, that's pretty much done, writing wise, lyrics wise. Have you finished with that as well, Chris?
Yeah. Yep. I'm on the 9. We just have to. We have album art. We're just we got to get together with doing the photos, which I'm sure we'll do sometime soon. We're just working out, like we said in the past with the masks and everything. Everyone's doing it now, so I think we're pretty much settled. Never say never, but I think we're pretty much settled on these masks and this attire. We might change color schemes with the cufflets and the leg wrappings and stuff, but ultimately I think this will be where we're at for a little bit image wise, just because it's hard to be original when everyone's doing the masks now, and it's equally harder when you have bands like Behemoth doing masks that have larger budgets where they can just spend thousands of dollars on crafted medieval, armor, where we are a little more peeled back
a
in
little more of a budget.
what we can do. And so yeah, we're trying to work that out, just color scheme wise, but ultimately, like, 8's done, even 9 with where the concept should be is done. It's just getting the words, and 8 was easy to get the words because I feel like we were a little more relaxed again, like he was talking with 6. But this one I'm having a hell of a time with, because the music, again, as always, for me is phenomenal. And I want to try to match that. And I'm there with certain things, but I'm getting too ahead of myself with overthinking things. So I've been trying to just put it on autopilot like I did with 7, but I haven't quite gotten there yet.
Yeah, and I'm doing a little bit of overthinking too, with 9 as far. I mean, the music's done, but again, I had my share of overthinking it too, because the more albums you put out, the more the expectations are gonna be there. You got to top what you did last. But and there was a certain point in my music writing, where I was listening back to everything, thinking, is this good enough, or is this, are we just on autopilot now? Are we just like an assembly line, or are we continuing to do things that match the quality of what we did before? Because there's a law of diminishing returns. It's like, people, first time you hear something, you could think it's great or whatever, and then the more then they put something else out, still great, maybe not exactly the same feeling you got as the first time you heard that particular kind of thing, but then more and more you release, that you start getting less and less, fewer and fewer returns. So it's you grapple with that whole crisis of, well, do I continue do I keep pushing the boundary, or do I just kind of cruise on what we've been doing, like the sound that we've built and refined? Do we just kind of coast on that for a while, or do we continue to try and reinvent the wheel? But that's kind of where I'm at now, starting to write 10. It's like, my God, what is there left to say musically that I haven't already said? Or how do I write something that doesn't sound like something I've done before, but still keep to the sound that we've kind of, crafted and refined through all these albums? It's getting tougher and tougher.
Well, look, I think wherever the road takes you, I'm very much looking forward to hearing where you guys land. I think you've done a sensational job with this record. I love that you're hard on yourselves, because you've got high expectations of yourself, but you also, really shouldn't be. You guys are very much on track as far as I'm concerned.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time, and once again, thank you for your patience with all the fucking changes. We'll no doubt speak again at some point soon.
Great.
Take care of yourselves.
Yeah, thank you for continuing to have us on. I mean, you're getting a lot of good guests with some pretty big names.
Got good guests now.
Yeah. I mean, to keep coming back and wanting to talk to our little band, I mean, it means the world to us.
No, that's a pleasure, and I've always said this. The part of the goal with this podcast was always to see whether I can get to a place where I can move the needle for bands that I like. The part of the way that you do that is to have bigger bands on, so that you grow your profile, and then it puts you in a position where, if I've had Necro Butcher on one week, I can put something on the next week that's a little bit lower profile in the grand scheme of things, but hopefully you've got enough spillover people listening, checking out the show now, that they're going, hey, this is Veilburner, and that's a fucking cool band. Sladeer is a great band. Trivax is a cool band. That's the goal. It's how can I elevate bands I like? How can I clear the trash out of the scene? So that should be the show's strapline: clearing out the trash one episode at a time.
Yeah, that Necro Butcher episode was great. I was watching that. A lot of insight on that one, and it's funny. It's just how he's just sucking down coffee.
Sucking down coffee.
Blowing his nose. Yeah, it's funny.
I've said this before, but I kind of you just picked I've just picked it up very, very quickly into in that conversation. Like, you just have to let him talk. Just let he's got his own rhythm. Don't interrupt. Don't do anything. Just let him talk. There's some people where you have to make a conscious effort to lead the conversation, but the best people are people where you just know it's just gonna be a conversation. They're just gonna talk.
Yeah, I like the David Vincent episode a lot.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I mean, well, I was like a young kid fucking doing cartwheels in my head throughout that episode, because I was like, if anyone had told me when I was 15 years old I was going to have this conversation, I would have told you you're a fucking psycho, you're a lunatic, you're unhinged.
He's a very good speaker too. I mean, I like watching interviews with him specifically because he's just a very good speaker. He's very articulate. He's really good at, like, the thing that I'm seem to be having trouble with today, which is putting words together. But yeah, I love his cadence and voice, and just he should be doing radio. Like, he should be doing like a radio show. He's got that kind of like a voice and just
I agree,
natural speaking flow.
He's also, they talk about never meeting your heroes. Like, he is absolutely everything that I ever thought that he was. He's he's my kind of person. He's a man's man. Mm-hmm. And I have a ton of respect for people like that. So
yeah.
All right, gentlemen, thank you very much. We will speak again very soon. Take care of yourselves.
You too.
Bye-bye. A Shadow of a Shadow by Veilburner off their brand new album, The Duality of Decapitation and Wisdom. Not the kind of music that you just crack open a beer and have play in the background. It rewards time invested, but absolutely sensational and great catching up with Chrisum and Mephisto. Thank you very much to them for their time. I will post the Veilburner Bandcamp link in the description to the podcast. And if you like what you heard and you want to support those guys, make sure you head over there and you tell them who sent you. Right now, my friends, if you thought that the Joaquin Phoenix movie Her was anything other than a steaming pile of hot dog turd, then it's time to hit the bricks, because this is my weekly news rant.
A roundabout for judgment. And hang them where the world can see.
As I hit record, we started talking about the new album. Now, I'm always conscious about not being stuck in my own bubble, but I would suggest that at least from what I'm seeing on Instagram, Facebook, everywhere else, there's way more excitement for Satan's Kingdom than there was for true English black metal, which is, a very vindicating and a very it must be very nice to see.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It is, you never quite know how things are going to go down, and we're really happy with how things are going. I've got definitely no issues on how things are at the moment. The video on black metal promotion seems to be going well.
Yeah,
you always do, because it's fucking black metal promotion. But yeah, I'm very, very happy.
Oh, that's good, man. I'm very glad for you
very
guys.
Happy. I'm just looking forward to getting my hands on the CDs and the tapes. I think.
Have those not turned up yet?
No. I think Dale's holding them for himself.
Yeah. No, but I think overall for me it's a significantly better record. Like I liked true English black metal, but like this is. True English black metal had great tracks and standout tracks. This to me is like very, very solid from the get-go. It's a sharper album. It's like a more articulate record. I feel than True English black metal was, and it's sometimes I think if you've like you guys dwelled on True English black metal for a very, very long time, and I feel like sometimes that could, and you can tell me what it was like from your perspective, but it's hard to follow up a record like that. Whereas this one obviously came much quicker, and I mean, I'm sure some of these songs are older as well, but it feels like it's just a much more refined vision, I think, of what the band should sound like.
Yeah. It was kind of the total opposite, to be honest. As I told you last time, I mean, True English black metal was it was an absolute chore, to be honest. It was an absolute nightmare to get out, with the amount of times that we recorded it, re-recorded it, weren't happy, changed band members, and I've always tried to get an album out with current band members, where possible. So when another band member like joins, or you try to get them involved in the record. Unfortunately, it didn't happen with Satan's Kingdom, but that's a different story altogether. But yeah, Tebben was an absolute nightmare. Our own fault, I think. Our own fault, just for wanting to get the best record that we know we could have got out at the time out there. And like I said, it was just so long coming. Anything less than perfection is what we could do then just wouldn't have been good enough.
Yeah.
So that's why that taking so long. That's why it took so long to get out. Which we're very happy with. We're still happy with True English black metal, obviously. But Satan's Kingdom was ridiculously easy, to be honest. Definitely in comparison.
I was going to say a different mindset on this one.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Definitely in comparison to True English black metal. I mean, I can remember we kind of started seriously kind of writing for it pretty much at the back end of releasing True English Black Metal. I think we always writing and as most bands always do. I mean, you never really stop writing and jotting down lyrical notes or having audio bits on your phone from, for new riffs and that kind of thing. And I can remember Mark sent me over a folder full of just random different riffs, and that's kind of how we finished off the title track for True English Black Metal.
Yeah.
And I seem to recall in that folder, I mean, hopefully Mark will be joining us soon, and he'll probably tell me I'm totally and utterly wrong, but I seem to remember in that folder there were the first couple of or the main riff, the main riff of Worthless.
Yeah.
So when we're putting the end of True English Black Metal together, and we considered that done, it was kind of in the mindset. What's next? What are we doing next? What can we do? What can we keep going?
Yeah.
And
the creative juices are flowing.
Yeah,
you guys are. Yeah.
So we tried to get it, try to hold back a little bit, get this out of the way, then we'll start on this. I just see Mark's just waking up. I think he's just rising out of his crypt. But yeah, we finished that one off. We started on some more bits and bobs, some more songs, and yeah, we started on the new one. But once we had kind of got the basis out for Worthless, and I kind of done like a scratch vocal kind of demo for it. That was it. It was like the floodgates. The gates have opened, and just song after song after song after song just kept coming and kept coming. And it's like, what the fuck's this? It's like straight away. It's like it was like years of pent up writing tension just gone, just all gone.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, we can still write songs. We can still do this. We can still, and it felt really good. I can't remember what order the songs were created in now, but the title song I think was fairly quick, probably the second or third song off the album to write. But yeah, the whole process just was a lot more fluid, a lot more natural. No issues at all. It was just it just worked. It just worked really well.
Which comes out in the material without a shadow of a doubt.
We was very, very happy. Very happy with it all.
Good.
Before we start anything else, by the way, congratulations on your wedding.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, mate.
I know we've been talking about a different wedding.
Yeah.
But, you kept this one quiet, didn't you?
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, that was the point of eloping. So,
yeah.
It was, the whole plan was that we weren't gonna tell anybody and just go and do it. We'd been to stay at the Gilpin Hotel in the Lake District in July, loved it, and then they do like I think they call it a you and me package, and we just did that. And it's, I mean, obviously, you know Cumbria really well.
Oh, yeah.
It's absolutely stunning. It was like one of these things where when I walked down to the sort of jetty in front of the lake house where we got married, you're just blown away by how beautiful it is. I mean, they barely had to, they did do some decorations, but you barely have to decorate it because it's just literally like, postcard, wherever you look, you can just kind of snap a postcard straight away. It was absolutely incredible. Like, it was
whereabouts was that in Cumbria, sorry?
Just outside of Windermere.
All right. Oh,
yeah.
Okay. What was the place called again?
The Gilpin Lake House.
Was that the other side of Windermere? The not the kind of wooded side, like where Fellfoot Wood is. The other side. You have to go around, is it Newby Bridge kind of end? Did you
No,
see that?
it's pretty wooded. I don't know the names of the forests and stuff that are there, so I couldn't place it for you directly. But I mean, it's about 3 miles into town.
Right.
So yeah,
Lovely place, a lovely area.
mate, fucking incredible, absolutely
Absolutely amazing.
incredible.
Yeah. Really, really nice place.
You have chosen to drop in on quite a week for the news, by the way.
Okay.
So before we even start listening to music, there's two big bits of news that we need to discuss. Um, you can kind of pick your poison on this one, but let's talk about the controversy around Impaled Nazarene first and foremost. So you obviously are familiar with Impaled Nazarene.
Mm.
Have you met any of the guys in the band?
Oh, I wish I could.
Yeah.
I can imagine
Um,
quite a good conversation comes out from that.
I would imagine so. So anyway, they were scheduled to play, and this is just for context for anybody who doesn't know what's going on. They were scheduled to play on the 13th of December at Eindhoven Metal Meeting. Eindhoven Metal Meeting posts 2 days ago a note on their Instagram saying, "Today we were informed by FNR that due to social and political pressure, the band Impaled Nazarene is no longer welcome to perform at their venue. While we must accept this decision, we respectfully disagree with it. Impaled Nazarene was booked and announced almost a year ago and has previously performed at FNR multiple times without any complaints. We firmly believe in the principles of freedom of speech and music as a legitimate form of artistic expression. Black metal, by its very nature, embodies rebellion, nihilism, and provocation. The band's zero tolerance lyrics, written over 25 years ago, may indeed provoke controversy, but they reflect an artistic ethos rather than a real societal threat. Over their career, the band has made a point of challenging and offending basically everyone. Recently, accusations have surfaced suggesting the band poses a threat to society and minorities, and claims that they have been made by people who no longer feel safe attending the venue. Unfortunately, these allegations are rooted in manipulated narratives and misinformation. It's disheartening to see how misinformation and external pressures have led to this cancellation. While genuine societal issues exist outside the walls of the venue, the metal community has long been a space of inclusivity and mutual respect. Art, especially music, must retain the freedom to challenge, provoke, and even be uncomfortable. It is a true shame that these principles have been overshadowed in this instance." I mean, this is just another of many examples of, Antifa types getting to venue owners and then, in the name of safety, quote unquote, getting a band booted off a bill or getting a show cancelled. I mean, my thoughts on this are pretty straightforward. I think it is particularly ridiculous given that it's based on a song that was written over 25 years ago by a band whose other songs include tracks like Angel Rectums Still Bleed, Motor Penis, Goat Sodomy. It's like if you just look at the song titles, it's like, guys, it's not as though Impaled Nazarene have not ever been about being overtly and like almost childishly offensive.
I
But
think they've been pretty
I'll
constant during their career, haven't they? I think they've been pretty.
100%.
I think they've been pretty constant. Yeah.
Yeah. Now the other thing that I would ask is in the 25 years since the release of Zero Tolerance, has there ever been an instance of a determined and planned homophobic assault at an Impaled Nazarene show?
I very much doubt it. I think,
but say not that I'm aware of.
I imagine the majority of the crowd are too wasted and enjoying themselves at a gig to be worried about any gay bashing.
I highly doubt that's been the case. Much as irony of ironies, and I've spoken about this on last week's episode. I met KK from Destroyer 666 at the secret show they played at a gay club in London. And Paige, who was there, commented at the time that it was, one of the most relaxed and chilled out atmospheres she's seen at any of the shows that she's been to with me. Everyone seemed to be enjoying themselves. None of the staff were, in fear of their lives. But as I said, in that instance, Impaled Nazarene now booted off the show. And like for me, the precedent that this sets Like it potentially sets a very dangerous precedent, but it's also incredibly hypocritical. Like, are we going to start saying, Cannibal Corpse should be cancelled because women are going to feel unsafe at Cannibal Corpse shows due to their lyrics? Or, Deicide should no longer be allowed to perform publicly because Christians are going to feel unsafe at their shows.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine that?
Well, I mean, the thing is, like, this Antifa-led zealotry is, to me, it's actually worse than the PMRC in the 1980s, because the PMRC were a joke and a shambles, but, at the very least, they were going after songs that were current. They weren't going, we're going to go over every single thing that you've done over the course of your career, whether it's something you said in an interview, someone you played with in a band, or a lyric that you wrote when you were young. And we're going to go, you have to be, if we find anything we dislike, you're out. You're not allowed to be on the, you don't pass the purity test any longer, and you're no longer allowed to play and perform and fly your trade.
It just goes to show that through life, you're not allowed to change. You're not allowed to change your, not even your religious, political, or whatever stance on life. It's just like you said, it's just the way things are, isn't it? It's the modern world with. It's your modern world with your smartphones and your internet and everything else. Yeah. Everything that gets documented. I mean, anything that can get manipulated and changed, and it is pathetic. And like you said earlier, but is it just money? Is it just money on their part? Because, I mean, do Impaled Nazarene do their own solo shows now? I mean, I'm not seen him for quite a while, but I assume that nobody gets murdered during those shows. So what would be different here?
Yeah. And Marcus just joined us now.
Azrael. How are you?
I was about to say he's wondering what in the hell have I just stepped into.
He just walked into a mess here, man.
But it's as I said, it's just another example. I feel like the tide is turning. If you go through some of the comments here, generally speaking, firstly, I would say I think the organizers of the festival, they're in a difficult position. They can't exactly cancel the festival a week before it's due.
Who else is on the show as well? Anybody else that's slightly
funnily enough, Carpathian Forest are on the bill as well.
The very pinnacle of woke agenda.
Exactly. In fact, I'll tell you who's on. Hold on. Okay. Let me get the lineup, because I was looking at this and I sat thinking to myself, well, if we're going to take every single thing that every band on this lineup has ever said or done and take literal offense to it, then how many bands are going to actually stay left on the lineup? So we've got Catatonia headlining, which I have to say I think is quite odd when you look at the rest of the bands on the lineup. But yeah, so then you've got Dark Funeral.
Released an album anytime soon, have it? It's not like it's a
no. You've got Dark Funeral. You've got Covenant performing a Nexus Polaris set. You've got Asphyx, Anel Nathrak. You've got Carpathian Forest. I mean, they almost certainly have to be taken off. You've got Ecclese. You've got Chapel of Disease. You've got Defleshed. I mean, how Ecclese? I feel like Nas is probably breathing a sigh of relief. It's like, oh well, this time they went after Impaled Nazarene. They lack the energy to go after two bands per lineup. So I mean, we're in the clear.
At least they're current. At least they have a current grudge to back it up to get kicked off with. But
as I said, I respect the position of District 19. I think who are the promoters, they're in a very difficult spot. I think it is disgraceful of FNR to do this, especially a week before, because that feels particularly calculated. Like if they had a problem with a band a year ago, they should have said it a year ago, not go a week before the time when the promoter can't find a alternative location and say, well, you're no longer allowed to do that. But as I said, it comes back to me to the precedent and to the hypocrisy. If we're gonna take every single band at face value and take literally what they sing, are we now going to start saying, well, if you make a Christian feel unsafe or a woman feel unsafe or a man feel unsafe, then you're no longer, I mean, and then does, the feeling of safety become completely and utterly subjective? I could turn around and say, well, Dagon stared at me in a way off stage that made me feel unsafe and unwelcome, so Heathen Deity are no longer allowed to play ever again.
He does tend to do that. He's a bit of a bastard.
Yeah.
He does tend to do that. Maybe we should all start signing waivers before we go into shows.
I'm about to say, maybe that's
maybe there should be like a quiet corner to the side where you could all go and have a nice group hug and a cup of tea or something, just in case you feel a little bit threatened, a little bit intimidated.
Yeah,
no, I mean,
horrible.
Sorry, you were going to say, Mark?
This current climate with political correctness is just way off the scale. It's getting a bit silly.
Yeah. As I said, I do feel like the tide is turning, but I mean, we will still see things like this happen. My friends in Obsidian Shrine, they've just had something similar happen to them. The headlining band, a guy had some, pagan symbol on his guitar 25 years ago that, is now associated with white supremacists. Bear in mind, this happened 25 years ago. And because of that, the show got cancelled. They have to go and find some like local dive bar somewhere to play.
Yeah.
And kudos to them to the new venue for hosting them. But again, it's still this case of what to Dagon's point. Are you going to, like the purity test that's in place right now doesn't allow for any kind of personal development, no change, no evolution in your thinking, as happens to us all. If you're not pure from the get-go, then it's you'll be found out, and then you quote unquote have to take accountability. So anyway,
some kind of application form before you start a band.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, precisely.
Kind of survey.
You need to get what's name? You need to get
a certain score on the level before you're allowed to participate in the scene.
You basically need to get sworn in the way they do members of Congress. When they do a cross-examination of them to dig up all the skeletons in the closet.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's one piece of news. The next one that I thought was very interesting, and we'll probably get to it in the headlines, but you guys, I'm sure, are familiar with it. I don't know whether it sits in either of your wheelhouses, but you'll no doubt be familiar with My Dying Bride. There's been some discussion, obviously, on My Dying Bride being on hiatus. They had a bunch of shows this year that they cancelled. They said they needed to take a break. I had Aaron Stainthorpe on the podcast 2 weeks ago, in the guise of frontman in High Parasite, but naturally we also spoke about My Dying Bride. This is what he said when I asked him what the future for My Dying Bride potentially would look like.
But I don't know if I've mentioned this previously. Every time MDB do an album, we always leave a couple of extra tracks over for an EP further down the road, which is exactly what we did for the last album.
I was about to say, you had done it for Ghosts of Orion as well, right?
Yeah. So there's two tracks that the public have never heard. So that's new music for them. So at some point, we're kind of hoping Nuclear Blast are going to get on the phone and say, well, let's have them then. So ergo, there's going to be an EP, I'm hoping, at some point. And I would have thought My Dying Bride would be back at some point next year. We've had a long enough break, and would be probably doing live shows next year. That's what I said. But the guy was a little bit, and I think his enthusiasm, I think, got the better of him.
But anyway, so Aaron says this. Now, this in terms of timeline, this was recorded about 3 weeks ago to the day. Yesterday, it gets announced that My Dying Bride will be returning for live shows, but they will be playing with, or they will not have Aaron Stainthorpe singing for them. They will be featuring on vocals Miko Kotamaki of Swallow the Sun, which obviously they present no explanation whatsoever. There's nothing like this is a, this is a one-off. It's just like, we'd like to welcome him to the ranks. He's going to be a member of the band. So before I let you guys comment, two strange things happened whilst I was, or straight after I posted this episode. So I shared this episode in the My Dying Bride Facebook group, And probably about 24 hours after I'd shared it, Sean McGowan, who plays keyboards and violin for My Dying Bride, comments, just to save me having to watch this, what does he say? And I looked at it and I was like, this feels a little salty, like unnecessarily salty for somebody who's been very vocal supporter of this band. But I didn't respond to it straight away because I thought maybe I'm overreacting. The next day, comment is deleted. And then 2 days ago, whoever is the admin for the My Dying Bride Facebook group did a laugh react to the post that I had put on, the original post that I just referenced. And again, look, saw it pop up as a notification on my phone, didn't think anything of it. Went back the next day to see whether it was still there, gone. And then obviously this news drops. So small things in isolation, but it kind of starts to paint a picture. And if I listen to that clip with Aaron, there's nothing in his inflection, there's nothing about what he's saying that to me would suggest that he may have been aware that they're going to be announcing shows next year without him singing. What is your take as an external observer?
All I heard originally was just like rumors that, you know, there was some issue between Aaron and one of the guitarists.
And Andrew.
Is that it?
Yeah.
And I've just taken it as rumor. I don't know the truth. Their drummer Dan Mullins was obviously in our band for a bit, and I think Dagon speaks to him more than I do. So Dagon might have more of a clue what's going on there.
It seems like a mass communication failure. I mean, let's bring this into context. If, let's say, we was going to be doing a tour, or actually no, let's say I started a new project and we're doing that, and then all of a sudden, you know, like ours is going to be doing a Heathen tour with a different vocalist.
He announces Jackie Smith is going to be our
there you go. He stands in.
People are like, yes, finally.
Thank fuck for that.
Yeah. No, but okay. Sorry.
No, you're not. You're not sorry at all.
Please continue.
It's an odd situation, isn't it? It's really strange. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like, well, that first comment you said then about who did you say? Was the other guitarist said? What did he say?
So not the other guitarist, so the keyboardist and violinist Sean.
Oh.
What he said was, or the comment, as I remember it, was to save me having to watch this. What does he say?
Yeah.
And then
crazy.
Which again, you can read it in a way where it does come across as a little bit salty, but then at the same time, you know, it's text.
You can have the interband sarcasm.
Yeah.
Obviously, but you wouldn't air that. At least, I mean, I wouldn't think I would want to air that. I mean, you know, you can have the interband, say, sarcasm and banter and that kind of thing, but you wouldn't put that out. It's like My Dying Bride is two different bands. It's like there's them and him, which is a tragic shame. I mean, I've met Aaron a couple of times under different circumstances. Lovely guy. I've got no problems with Aaron at all. Obviously, like I say, we know Dan very well, and we was over the moon when he rejoined My Dying Bride, because that's the band I think that he really excelled in from all those years of being a professional drummer. I think he really excelled in My Dying Bride. And when he rejoined, then we was really happy for him, and they did an album and it was brilliant. And then all of a sudden things started going a bit bad, and you can't help but feel sorry for the guy. It's every kind of musician's dream to be at a level that My Dying Bride are at. All of a sudden it's just ripped away from you.
Yeah.
I think, like you said, I think there's some sort of massive miscommunication going on.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even know what the guy from. Sorry, man.
They seem to be playing the problems close to their chest. They're not putting it out into the public or anything like that. And I admire them for that, because it could easily become a slanging match if there were real problems within the band. And you don't need to be making all that public, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
No.
But
I mean, I don't know
so
the guy
I
from-
completely agree with you, Mark. But what I'm saying is I don't think Aaron knew this was coming. At least not 3 weeks ago when I recorded this. It doesn't seem in anything that he said there that he knew it was coming. So there's a couple of ways in which you can interpret it. Like, if you're a cynic, you could say the guys are potentially doing him a little dirtier. Certainly, I'd originally said when the High Parasite thing happened and the My Dying Bride shows were cancelled, I said I think this has something to do with High Parasite, and I was the first person, or certainly one of the first people to say it. And then when I spoke to Aaron, I walked it back. I said, well, I was wrong. Clearly, that's not an issue. Now I retract my retraction. It clearly is an issue. And I'm not taking sides here because I've had Andrew on and I've had Aaron on the show twice. Both guys I thought were top-notch dudes. I'm a huge fan of this band. So I would just like to see things work out well for them. What I would say is replacing Aaron. So I get that Andrew and the rest of the band write the music and Aaron is a vocalist. However, there are certain vocalists you can get away with replacing. There are certain vocalists you cannot. There is no way they can replace him in My Dying Bride. They may as well just start a different band. It would be like trying to continue Paradise Lost without Nick. Greg writes all the music, but it doesn't really matter because Nick is the voice. It would be. I would go as far as to say it'd be like trying to get a different vocalist into Metallica. That's how good of a chance you have of getting anyone to accept a different vocalist in My Dying Bride.
Yeah, he can't be replaced.
No.
Maybe it depends on if it's just like a localized thing. If it's only one gig.
Well, this is the thing. Like, neither side has made a statement, so we don't know. It may just be a one-off. I still would not. I wouldn't even perform with a different person if I were My Dying Bride. But that's just my view as a very biased fan who loves the band and loves the way they sound and doesn't want it to change.
Well, like you say, to be devil's advocate, what is the alternative? If Aaron has gone away and done his own thing, fair play to him. And the other guys, I don't know what their financial or whatever situation is. If My Dying Bride is their biggest income, what are they going to do? Are they just going to sit on the laurels and just wait for him to come back? Are they taking this apparently unplanned hiatus and just waiting to see what happens while the front man is doing his own thing? I mean,
the band isn't their main source of income. I know that because Andrew spoke about it on the podcast.
I didn't really think it was, to be honest, but it's obviously.
But and again, I understand all of those things, but there's also that question of, I used this phrase last week, reality is an undefeated champion, and the reality is it is in some ways, like if you looked at it if you were an intermediary, you would say it's unfair that the band can't continue without Aaron being on vocals, because again, the music that he's singing to, it's written by different people, and those people deserve all the credit in the world. But again, it's what people will accept, and they will not accept a different vocalist to Aaron in this band. I just
remember the
can't
last
see it
album
happening.
being very personal as well, wasn't it, to Aaron?
Yeah, well, there was so Ghost of Orion was a difficult album for him. I think Immortal Binding, the album that they brought out this year, that's just an incredible return to form, I feel, for the band. I mean, I think it's the best thing they've done since Songs of Darkness, Words of Light back in 2004 is my view. I mean, it is an incredibly powerful album. And again, not to kind of keep spinning our wheels on this, but I would say, as I've mentioned previously, if this is the record that is the swan song for My Dying Bride, that's the perfect note for them to end off on. It's the perfect My Dying Bride album for them to close the book on the band.
Well,
I hope that it won't be, but it would be the perfect record for them to close off on.
Definitely wish them well, whatever they're doing, but get it sorted out, lads. Come on.
Yeah, no, I agree. All right, let's check out some new music. Last week I was really lucky. There was a load of very cool stuff that we could listen to. This week, if I just scan across Metal Storm, looks like the pickings might be slim. But I know that Az in particular is a big fan of Harakiri For The Sky. So let's hear their newly released rendition of the Radiohead song "Street Spirit" Fade Out.
I love the original.
I do as well, actually.
I've not heard this version.
Yeah, no, I do as well. This is on the band's forthcoming record, Scorched Earth, which is due out on January the 24th, 2025. Now, the last time that I listened to this band on the news rant, my views were not favorable in the slightest. So we'll see what we think about this one, but let's hear what it sounds like.
Rows of houses are bearing down on me. I can't feel their blue hands touching me. All those things into position. All those things were one day sworn.
So, I mean, I'll just say this from the outset. This is certainly a better song, or this is better music just on its face than the black metal effort that I listened to previously.
Right.
Without a doubt. What are your first impressions, Az?
A great song is a great song, and I love Radiohead, and I love that song. It started out quite faithful, and then it went. Obviously, it went a bit heavier and stuff. That's not bad. It works.
I am not familiar with the band in the slightest. I've nod a name, but I've not listened to them.
Dagon listens to side A of the first Bathory album exclusively because it was on side B that they sold out. Everything else is false. Everything else is poser shit.
Oh. Anyway, yeah, I've not really heard them. I know they're fairly big, aren't they? I was going to say,
huge.
Are they okay? Not in my cave, they're not.
Or not mine either, really.
Not in my house.
Well, what can I say? I mean, like as I said, a good song is a good song. It's an amazing song from an amazing original band. It did start off fairly close to the original. It sounded good. A very good production. If the rest of their music sounded on this level, then I wouldn't have any issue listening to the band as a whole.
Mm.
You know what I mean? I definitely wouldn't go out my way to listen to them because there's, to me, there's a million other bands I'd rather listen to, but I've got no issue with it. If their music doesn't sound like this, their own original music doesn't sound on par with this, then well done for doing a good cover.
Yeah, I would say I'm aligned with you on that. I'll be curious to get your take on this, Az, but I do feel with a song like this, there's something to the minimalist take that Radiohead has in the original that kind of adds a dynamic to it. I hate to use the word, but a tenderness to it that works really, really well.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
And I feel like if you add, sometimes when you add guitars, like I often hear this in like where bands do, like heavy bands do, guitar orientated, like heavy covers of a slower song. It fails me on that basis because it was intended to be presented in a certain way. And I'm not saying they should do it no perfect. It's great that they did a reinterpretation, but you understand what I'm driving at.
Yeah, it's kind of like they made it heavy just for the sake of it.
Yes.
To fit into
it was just a bit of
exactly.
Not quite as melancholic as it was before, perhaps.
Yes.
The original song is just so sad and melancholic. It's unbelievable, brilliant.
No double kick in the original then?
No. Well, also I would say Dagon, the rest of their music, it may be for some, it's not for me. I didn't like the previous single that I heard. They sound to me like emo black metal.
Yeah.
They have that. They also have that emo vocal style that is in some of the newer black metal bands, which I cannot stand. It's not a scream. It just sounds like a whine, and it's not
a term that I love to use, and I know somebody that we know quite well likes to use is black metal tourists.
Yeah. Now, at the same time, it feels to me like they're more comfortable doing this kind of music really than they are doing black metal, and I'm sure there are fans of Harakiri For The Sky that are going
screaming at the screens.
You're crazy for saying that, but maybe this is the vibe that they should take. It kind of like Tribulation. Tribulation started as a death metal band, but I personally think this new direction they've taken on the most recent Tribulation album suits them way better. They sound way more confident and comfortable and in their element making that kind of music. That's what they should be doing. Maybe this is what Harakiri should be doing in the future.
Maybe, yeah.
Strangely, you mentioned Catatonia earlier. This reminded me of Catatonia as soon as it came on.
A little bit, yeah. Yeah, I would agree. But we are definitely in agreement. The original is an incredible track, and I'm pleased that you're a fan of Radiohead. They're a band that they've got a lot of shite in their discography as well. But when when they're on target, like everything in its right place, pyramids, things like that. I mean, there are very, very few bands, in my view, that come anywhere close.
I agree. Especially that particular indie genre, whatever you want to call Radiohead.
Yeah,
they're top of the mountain as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
The band you can get very emotionally connected to, and obviously when they came out and we're all kind of similar age, you can be emotionally connected to them because obviously the songs that came out around the time that we was growing up, that kind of thing. So very easily connectable.
They the first track I ever heard of them was Creep, which I absolutely detested. And it wasn't until I heard Street Spirit that I was like, okay, there's something a little different here. They sounded to me just like a Nirvana clone. They were like, okay, this is what happens when you come at Nirvana by way of Bush. That's what I thought of Creep at first.
I was the opposite. I loved Creep when I heard that, and at the time I was saying to everybody, "This is better than Nirvana."
Yeah,
that was just my opinion.
What do you think of Tom York's solo stuff?
I love it.
Yeah.
I love everything.
Yeah, he's done some incredible solo music. That Black Swan of his Eraser album. The entire Suspiria score, but particularly the song Suspirium, fantastic.
Yeah.
All right, let's go on to the next one. Something a little bit more mainstream. So again, I expect Dagon won't be familiar with this whatsoever. Shadows Fall have released their first new music in 12 years. I will not pretend to be the biggest fan of Shadows Fall. I did see a lot of excitement about this from various, particularly Twitter accounts, and Twitter accounts that mostly post about death and black metal, so who knows. It says, Shadows Fall have just released their first single since 2012. The song is titled In the Grey. It is a Chris Klump directed video, and it can be found below. The band's new album is expected to surface next year via MNRK Music Group. I don't have very high hopes for this, but let's go ahead and give it a listen. I don't entirely hate that, I have to say. As I said, I've never been a fan of Shadows Fall very much. I especially have never been a fan of metalcore. And I don't like clean singing generally in heavier music like this, unless it's done by someone who's, very distinct, has their own style, like Kirk Winstein kind of clean singing. But this is not, it's not terrible. I wouldn't say it's particularly remarkable either. If I want to hear this kind of music, I would listen to a band like Spirit World. But it's certainly not offensive.
Shadows Fall was a band I've heard of, but never really paid much attention to. It was okay, It wasn't outstanding, I could probably name, I'd say, other bands that sound like that, but it wasn't horrible, no.
Dagon?
Mm-hmm. Sorry, did you...
he's fallen asleep.
God damn it. I was trying all until the clean singing came on. And I was like, oh, no. Was it just my speakers, or did the vocals sound massively overproduced?
They did sound very overproduced. But then again, that's par for the course for that band. They've always done that. You do a fair bit of additional clean singing. Like, there's much more clean singing on Satan's Kingdom than there was on True English Black Metal, which I mentioned to you when you first let me hear the album. I really like that. I think you've got a great clean voice, and I love the fact that you used it more in this new material. But like, how have you gone about working on and developing your voice? How and becoming a more confident singer? Because that's another thing that I hear on this record is particularly in those clean vocals. There's a lot more confidence in your delivery than I can recall hearing on True English Black Metal.
To be honest with you, Jackie, I really should try more. I really should practice more with clean singing. I'm definitely not going to say that the clean parts on Satan's Kingdom were easy, because it definitely was not easy. It felt a lot more natural this time around. I mean, like I've said to you before, we've always tried to bring in elements, total polar kind of opposites of what you would kind of describe as black metal into Heathen Deity. So the clean singing and acoustic guitars, and the more traditional
organic stuff,
sound,
atmosphere.
It just feels very, very natural to do. I really enjoy clean singing like that.
Yeah.
It feels good. I'm sure Az will comment on the amount of takes it took to get the harmonies right, because I hold my hands up to start with. I am absolutely hopeless with harmony. I'm hopeless with being pitch perfect is not my forte. Something that sounds perfect to me, I'll send it over to Az, and he's like,
I think we had about 3 or 4 takes on each clean vocal part, something like that.
I haven't gone that far, to be honest.
I think three or 4 takes isn't bad.
I haven't gone that far, but yeah, we've had. I mean, certain songs I think just worked very, very well. Chapel of Filth, pretty much all
that was straight off that one. There was just did it.
I just did that one. That just worked straight away. I had an idea in my head about that. That I could probably thank you for that one, actually, Jackie.
Oh, really?
Yeah. For putting the spark in my head. Well, actually, a combination of you and Garl, to be honest.
Yeah.
I seem to recall the podcast that you did with Garl, where it was on about being black metal without singing black metal.
Yeah.
So that kind of sparked an idea about writing a whole song not sounding black metal, but being true to black metal lyrically. And if you was to read the lyrics to Chapel of Filth, to me personally, I don't think it could be any more anti-Christian, any more black metal than what it is. And I don't know why that certain tone and that certain kind of pitch or whatever, why I recorded it that low or that deep. I just pressed record and started singing, and something just resonated, and the whole song just flowed. It was.
That's also where you get the best. I think some of the best material from is when it's that's when you are able to capture that spontaneous moment. And sometimes it's like, I mean, we've always spoken about this, but on the earlier black metal albums that we all love, I mean, there's all these mistakes and all these things they kept in that just sound spontaneous, and it makes the record more memorable as a result. But it could also be something like a particular vocal take or particular performance that just right time, right place. The record button was handy, and you caught it. But I mean, I think the confidence is well founded, mate. And I'm very glad to hear that you are doing that you're doing more of it. And I would say carry on, because it really adds a huge amount to the new to the new material. I think it sounds fantastic because of it.
To be honest, it made me laugh. To be honest, once I'd done like the first kind of scratch track recording of it, I played it back and I actually started laughing. Not because it was funny, it was like where the fuck did that come from, kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's like, it just, how could I'd obviously written the lyrics to the song, but only heard it in my head, and when I actually heard it played back, I kind of almost had doubts that it wouldn't really work, but I'm glad it did.
Yeah,
I'm glad it did.
It's just something that clicked straight away.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm pretty glad you did it, because when I did the acoustic side of it, we didn't really know what to do with it. So,
and later on, obviously, you did the total same with the acoustics. I mean, when I did the harmony for the title song for Satan's Kingdom, and then later on in the album, as did a pretty much an acoustic version of the harmony that I sang, using the same structure, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's the same melody, same.
Yeah.
The second acoustic track is a reprisal of Satan's Kingdom, basically.
Cool. Yeah. All right. Well, like I said, carried on album number 3. Let's listen to some more music. So Revenge, another band who themselves have faced the mobs. There was I think an interview that now is 30 years old with Jay Reed of Revenge, where he used the N-word. And of course, back in 2020, this was dug up, and the attempt to cancel Revenge was there, because there's no way that you can change dramatically from the age of 18 to the age of 40 plus. But anyway, it says here, Edmonton, Alberta-based black death metal duo Revenge is back with their 7th full-length offering entitled Violation, Strife, Abominate. Set to come out on January the 1st, 2025 via Season of Mist. It's comprised of 12 new tracks. To taste the first piece of the new music, give a spin to the opening track, Violation Unit, Balaclava Directive. Let's hear what it sounds like. Right, Dagon, let's start with you. What do you think?
Well, that's a yeah.
That's a mouthful.
Do you know the sound when you were a kid when you used to put a crushed can at the back of your bike, pretend it was a motorbike?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't dislike it. I don't know what to say about that, to be honest. I don't mind that at all, to be honest. I think it's quite all right. I think his vocals would get quite tiresome very quickly.
Yeah.
Musically, I've got no issue with that at all. I think the drums sound pretty powerful.
I like the drummer.
Yeah. I've got no problem with that really at all. The only thing
they do have a very, very passionate following, this band. I didn't quite realize how passionate until that previous record of theirs, Strike, Smother, Dehumanize, came out. But I mean, people that are into this band are really into this band. What do you think?
I could understand why people like it, and it's very, very extreme. But I have no real opinion of it myself because I don't really listen to that kind of thing. I don't know. I didn't dislike it. But it's not really my thing.
So musically, I thought it was fine. I don't think I could. I don't think I could listen to a whole album of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've got an issue with that. I quite enjoyed that.
Yeah, I mean, I must confess, I didn't.
Do you
really
like something a bit more melody, perhaps?
I didn't really like the previous album very much. Like, if I want to listen to this kind of music, I'd listen to Diocletian instead. I think that they do this style in a way that I enjoy more. For me, there's I mean, we've only listened to 90 seconds, granted.
Of course, yeah.
It's not necessarily about melody for me. It's about hooks and about a vibe. I don't get either from this. Like, I get a vibe, and I like the kind of there's sort of this anarchic, really violent feel to their music, and I do quite like that. But it's just there are other bands that do this style and do it in a way that I just get into more. That just appeals to me more.
I was trying to find. I was waiting to find something in the songs that it was playing to grab me to the hook.
Correct.
And I didn't find it. I didn't find anything until that drum passage came in, till the drum kind of breakdown with a ride. I didn't find anything really to really grab me until that came in.
I think that's absolutely spot on. That's what I think as well.
Which was a bit of a shame. Maybe they should have. Started the song on that.
Yeah, I mean, again, I get the idea of building a bridge until you get to that payoff. For the groove, the breakdown, whatever you want to call it. But not bad. But there's other things that are coming out in January that I'm much more excited about than a new Revenge album. This was interesting news. So Sadis have parted ways with their drummer John Allen. For anyone who hasn't seen this yet, Death thrash metal veteran Sadis vocalist and guitarist Darren Travis has confirmed that co-founding drummer John Allen is fired from the band following disturbing videos surfaced online that show him physically abusing his partner Brandy Mae Collins. Allen, who was reportedly intoxicated at the time of the abuse, was the drummer for Sadis from 1985 to the hiatus in 2015, and again from 2017 to his departure. I mean, I think they've done the right thing. I've seen the videos. We're not gonna watch it yet, but I mean, it's a fucking horrific thing to see. That with my daughter, John Allen's testicles would be in different states.
No excuses.
No, fuck no, no, absolutely. Sometimes you look at it and you go, oh, we've all no doubt seen this, and it's not just it doesn't just relate to domestic abuse. It just relates to bad behavior, generally speaking. But when people act like complete and utter fucking scum, and then they go, "Oh, sorry, I was drunk." My view has always been, if you can't handle your liquor, then don't drink. Surely, after the first or the second time of getting drunk, and people going, "Jesus, mate, you turn into a different man when you got some of that booze in you." I'm sorry, but then you have to take the decision to go, "This is just not for me." I'm fortunate in that when I drink, I get sleepy. So that is literally the only thing that happens to me. I get sleepy. It was a well-known fact when I was in my really heavy drinking wild days working in the city in London, that if we were to go to a gentleman's establishment, there's a good chance they'd find me in the toilets asleep. But that's all that happens. But other people, and we know these human beings, they just become incredibly toxic and fucking horrible to be around, and everyone excuses it and says, "Oh well, they're just drunk." And to me, that is just never washed, and it never will. If you're a piece of shit, you're a piece of shit. End of story.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, no excuses.
Yeah,
skin him up, get him out there.
Yeah, no, agree. I'll tell you what else is a piece of shit. This mouse, which has been fucking juddering since we've started this. I don't know what's going on. But anyway.
I thought it was a cat in the background for some reason.
No. This is quite cool. So Emperor are going to be doing In the Nightside Eclipse in its entirety. Or is it? Are they doing In the Nightside Eclipse? I think so, yeah. In the Nightside Eclipse in its entirety on a tour they're doing in the US in 2025. In the Nightside Eclipse is my favorite Emperor album, so that is a show that I would not entirely hate to see.
Don't think I'll be traveling to see it, right? But
well, if they're doing it in the States, it means they may very well be coming to Europe to do it as well.
Well,
you never know.
Playing Bloodstock this year.
What this year's, and you mean they're going to be there in 2025?
Yeah, next year. Sorry.
Let's have a look. I think most of the Bloodstock lineup has been announced. No, however, no. Sorry, I take that back. They are Friday the 8th.
So with a bit of luck, might get some. That would probably be the only band I would want to see at Bloodstock.
Didn't they do the Nightside thing a few years ago though?
Well, I mean, they've been trading on past glories for some time now, so. And I say that bitterly because I'm a big fan of the Wretched End, and I would love for Samoth to do another Wretched End album, but obviously.
I know you're a big fan of Isan as well, aren't you, Jackie?
You know what?
It's been a long time since you did any Isan bashing.
It's not bashing for the sake of bashing. Like you must remember how much, like the regard with which I held that guy up when I was growing up, and I just feel like I almost I know I shouldn't do, but I almost take it personally when somebody slates a genre that they helped invent, then brings out something that they say is like, the definitive sound of black metal and is complete garbage. And just, yeah, he's we were talking about changing and evolving over time. The evolutionary path he's taken it's not for me. There's no getting away from the fact that, I mean, I'm a fan of Nine Equilibrium as well. I really, really love Anthems to the Volcano Dusk, and In the Nightside Eclipse is it's one of the most important albums in my musical development, without a doubt. I would assume I'm about to say I can see you nodding there, but I would assume it is for you guys as well.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
But you must remember though, Jackie, it wasn't him that put him on that pedestal. It was you.
True. Yeah, that's true. There's no that you're absolutely correct. But it doesn't make a difference because the main thing is I want Samoth to be doing another Wretched End record. That last Wretched End record was a masterpiece, and I don't understand why more people have not yet seen that. But anyway, right, we're getting into slightly heavier music, so let's hope we find something. We haven't gotten a single thing that earns a top notch yet today. Aid have released a new single. It says here Death Metalers Aid or Ade or however they pronounce their name are releasing a visualizer video for Burnt Before Gods, the first single from their forthcoming 5th album, Supplicum, to be released on March the 14th, 2025 via Time to Kill Records. They're certainly getting the hype cycle started early on that one, so let's give it a quick listen. right. You know, on Full Metal Jacket, where Gunnery Sergeant Hartman in the beginning of the movie tells one of the troops to show him his war face, and the guy screams and does it again. Private Joker, he says it to, and then he says to him, "You don't convince me. Work on it." That's how I feel about this shit. This is just completely unconvincing. It's poser garbage. I'm just going to call it what I think that it is. It is poser garbage. This
first thing that springs to me is terrible name.
Yes, it sounds like some sort of fucking pagan folk metal band from Finland. It doesn't work for the band at all. And then the song is just
unless they've got some kind of really, deep personal meaning behind the name, but that to me sounds like one of my dogs chewing on a bone and gagging. I've got no,
garbage,
total
garbage. I just want to ask a question. I'll edit this bit out if necessary. But are you comfortable with us talking about what's going on with your health?
Yeah.
Okay. So if in that case, let's talk about things like in that regard before we go any further. How are you feeling now? I mean, I know you started treatment. What's the status at the moment for you currently?
I had open heart surgery 2 weeks ago to replace a valve that was a problematic valve that I was actually born with. There was a problem with the tears not opening, and it turned out I only had 2. So I had to have the valve replaced. The surgery was 2 weeks ago, and I'm raw as hell.
Yeah. No, I can imagine.
It's very sore, very raw, but it's a step in the right direction for me health-wise. I mean, ultimately, this problem, I had to leave the live side of the band because of it. I'm just going to try and get better now and see where I lie in 6 months' time, health-wise, before I make a decision on what I'm going to do musically in the future.
Mm-hmm. How long did you know, or how long were you aware of the fact that you had this condition?
March. It was one Saturday morning in March, and I came down into the living room, and I just could not breathe. I was literally on my hands and knees trying to draw breath, So we went to A&E. I thought I'd got a chest infection because I'm quite prone to getting bronchitis and chest infections and things like that. And we went to A&E, and they looked at me, did some tests, and it turned out it was a heart problem. Congestive heart failure is what they told me. Months passed, and I had a few scans, MRI, all sorts of different things. And it turned out that I'd got atrial fibrillation. And then they found that the valve was leaking, and hence the operation 2 weeks ago. And that's the basic long and short version of it.
And the operation at least was a success?
Yes, yeah.
Christ, dude. But I mean that so it was undiagnosed up to the point where you've come down and you're struggling to breathe.
Yeah.
That must have been, the risk of stating the very bleeding obvious. That must have been fucking terrifying.
Oh yeah. I'm not afraid of dying or anything like that, but I've got commitments in life, children, a family. I know it's not as important, the band at the time, everything, that scared me, leaving everything behind if anything bad was to happen.
Yeah.
I know it sounds morbid talking like that, but
no, fuck it. I completely understand. And I would imagine there's an awful lot of things about life that snaps into focus at a rapid pace.
Very much
when
so.
Something like this happens.
Yeah, very much so.
You're a tough old bastard, aren't you?
I have my moments.
No, mate. Well, look. Firstly, I'm sorry to hear about this, but I'm glad that the operation
right.
was a success, and it seems
Yeah.
like you're on the road to recovery. And I know, I mean, it's likely to be a long road, but at least
Yeah.
at least it's in the right direction at the moment.
I was in surgery for 7.5 hours. But to my perspective, I was only there for 2 minutes. I fell asleep, and then the next thing I know, I'm waking up in the intensive care unit. It didn't really affect. It sounds stupid. It didn't really affect me because I was only gone for 2 or 3 minutes. From my perspective,
the doctor was saying, well, "What are all these pentagrams on his heart? I've never seen this before, but."
Why is his heart black?
Yeah, well, Jesus, we've never seen one that looks like this.
Well, he did have a heart after all.
Yeah. No, did you say anything weird when you came out of general anesthetic?
I went into ICU, like I said, and apparently I was asking the nurse what time it was every 5 minutes, all night.
Oh, really?
Yeah, all night long. What time is it?
No, I was under general anesthetic for a procedure on to get rid of one of my wisdom teeth that had fused with my jaw, so it basically had to be sawn out of my mouth. But when I woke up, apparently the woman has said she was telling me like, okay, you can't drive, you can't do this, that, and the other, and I all I said was like, what about video games? And she's like, oh, you can play video games. I just put my thumb up, and that was the end of it.
Yeah, you say the strangest things.
Yeah. Well, like I said, mate, I'm glad that we're talking today, and I'm glad that you're I'm glad they kind of spotted it before it was too late, because I mean I would assume that could also ultimately, if left long enough, could have led to a full bore heart attack that could have killed you.
I'm not prone to heart attacks with AF. I'm more prone to getting blood clots and more so strokes than an actual heart attack itself.
Yeah.
That's what I'm led to believe by what the doctors and the professionals were saying to me at the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, when they told me about the situation, when I went for my proper scan, they I can't think what it's called. They inject dye into your heart, and I was told if I wasn't to have the surgery, I'd last about 2 years.
Jesus Christ! And that's when all of a sudden the blood pressure goes up exponentially as well, I would imagine.
Yeah. Can't be having that.
No, fuck no, mate. Well, like I said, you're with us now. You're headed in the right direction.
Thank you.
All right, let's listen to one or two more songs and we'll wrap it up. Melodic black metal entity from Germany, Nachtblut, proudly announced the release of their 7th full-length installment, dubbed Todschik. It'll be set free on February the 21st, 2025 through Napalm Records, mixed and mastered by Benjamin Lawrence at Chameleon Studios in Hamburg, Germany. Alongside disclosed details, you can also give a listen to the first single title song. I actually can't recall ever hearing Nachtblut, so this will be a first for me. And I will play this fucking video as soon as this mouse stops its nonsense. I wonder whether the battery isn't just getting flat. Because it's
quite a poignant picture there on the bottom, isn't it, Mark?
Yes.
Yeah. I was about to say, yeah, that was not intentional. Anyway, right.
At all, no.
Let's hit play. Let's see what it sounds like. So, when we were talking about Impaled Nazarene earlier and people feeling unsafe at their shows, this is for black metal fans who want to feel safe at shows. It is complete dog shit.
It's Rammstein. It's poor man's Rammstein.
I actually like Rammstein. This just
I do.
is
Not,
fucking awful.
not that.
I would say Rammstein is more of a black metal band than these fucking losers are. I mean, this is vile.
I mean, I know it says in the description, and I must have blanked over when you mentioned about it being black metal entity, but I was expecting something like Aborted to play to play with the imagery.
Yeah,
for some reason. What utter crap!
When it started off with something that sounds like the score of Harry Potter, I was immediately concerned.
I liked the toy box sounds. I did actually like that bit, and the rest of the song kicked in.
Yeah, but those toy box sounds are meant to instill a friendly unease before it punches you in the face, surely.
Yeah.
And all this seems to do is just tittle you with feathers.
I wouldn't really call it black metal. It sounded closer to death metal.
No, it's not.
Yeah, 100%. It sounds like Crematory. You remember that shit band? It sounds like Crematory.
But I mean, bands like Rammstein, Decrux, they do it far better.
Yeah.
No, it's just one of those things, though, isn't it? When you hear slightly distorted, well, not distorted, slightly gruff metal vocals, now my brain just instantly goes Rammstein.
Especially when it's
of course, yeah. I mean, when you hear spoken German language in that kind of context, my brain instantly goes Rammstein.
That's where I went immediately. It was,
but
news is broken of Dimmu Borgir going into the studio and making new material. When we had Silenors on the podcast in April, he did hint that might be coming at some point. They're going to be following up to Aeonian. I would love nothing more than for them to announce that ICS Vortex is back
in I want
the band, but I don't think that's actually going to happen. I think he was only there for that one moment at Inferno, which was still to this day. I mean, I know it happened earlier this year, so when I use the phrase "to this day," it sounds like it's decades ago, but that was one of my favorite live moments I've experienced probably in my entire life. Just hearing him do the what's the name of the Insight and the Catharsis was just unbelievable.
Has anybody replaced Galdi yet?
I don't think it's been announced. No,
I don't know.
I do know that he has. I mean, obviously he was going to continue Old Man's Child.
There's been shows announced with Old Man's Child now, haven't there?
Yeah. Have they put out any new music though? I don't think so.
Not yet. I don't think so.
Yeah. But either way, please. I mean, latter day Dimmu Borgir, not my favorite music, but still happy to see them back in the studio doing something. All right, let's wrap up with a band that you all should know because you've stood on stage beside them, or certainly he, and when I say he, I mean AV of the band Abduction. He's been on stage with you guys. Abduction have premiered their brand new track, Razors of Occam, on February the 21st, 2025. Black metal unit Abduction will put out their 5th studio record entitled Existentialismus. To promote the upcoming music effort, the band shared a Jake Kindred directed video for the first streaming single, Razors of Occam. Previous single that we heard off this record, I absolutely fucking loved, and I have no doubt I'm going to feel the same about this one. Not that I want to be biased beforehand, but they have Abduction have a very positive track record with me. So let's hear what it sounds like. let that one run a little longer than I would typically do. But let me ask you this question. You guys have known AV for a long time. What are your thoughts on his evolution as a musician and on the evolution of this Abduction project? Because it has come a long way since the first albums, which he ostensibly did by himself.
Yeah, I mean, he used to play live on his own, didn't he, years ago? Just on stage with a guitar, and he's come a long way since then.
The production of this song, really good. Really, really good production. Loved his clean vocals.
I didn't realize the boy has pipes quite that really powerful. Good. When the song started, I was kind of like, I mean, this is the first song I can recall them hearing that is that like intentionally slowed down, and I thought to myself, this is an interesting direction for the band. And then when the clean vocals landed, it immediately kind of hit home. It's like, okay, that works. That sounds fucking excellent. It's a brave track to release if you've built you built a reputation. Wouldn't say a career, but you built a reputation out of faster, more aggressive black metal. This is more contemplative, I feel, but I mean, to me, no question. And I try and remove bias from it, but that's a top notch without a doubt.
It's almost like the gazing, like shoegaze, black gaze, that sort of feel. The beginning bit,
yeah.
No.
Yeah. No, I love it. Dagon, what are your thoughts? You can't say anything bad because you'll hurt AV's feelings. But
I can. I'm sure I can. I'm sure I can, but I don't need to.
Yeah.
It's clean vocals, and we've only heard a couple of minutes of that so far. I've not heard this song before. It's just the first time I heard it. The clean vocals, amazing. It reminded me of Emperor straight away. The clean vocal, the tone, and the layering of the clean vocals reminded me straight away of Emperor for some reason. Just the harmonies, how the harmonies are in the background of the clean vocals reminded me of Emperor. Song sounded powerful.
I love that guitar line.
That's actually a really good word. You know, it's one that's used a lot, but in this case, I think it literally is applicable. Powerful is what that song sounds like.
I think they've done exactly what they needed to do, like you said about changing it up and throwing a stone in the pool. They've caused ripples with this because nobody saw this coming. Nobody saw the slow, moody, atmospheric, almost kind of stripped down, especially the beginning, and then obviously it's coming powerful again. Another thing I can definitely appreciate, speaking personally from what we did with our first video, Fucking Worthless, I can appreciate the amount of time and effort it must have took to do the video. Which I never realized how much time and effort goes into making this type of on location kind of music video. So this must have took a long time.
I couldn't help but wondering whether that's AV's nan, whether it's his grandma sitting in the chair. But either way,
family members.
Very, very well done to him and to the band. I think that's excellent. Makes me more excited about hearing the whole thing. And he'll hopefully be on the podcast early next year when this record comes out. But gentlemen, thank you very much for your time. It's been a pleasure. The pickings have been slim, but the company has been great. We are going to wrap up with I feel this is more than appropriate for us to be playing this. I did play Heathen Deity earlier on in the podcast, so we're going to wrap up with the band we spoke about at the beginning of the news rant. One of my favorite ever Impaled Nazarene songs. It's called Enlightenment Process. It's on Road to the Octagon. Thank you very much, guys, for joining. I also want to say thank you very much to the gentlemen from the gentlemen from Veilburner for coming on the podcast, and to the Legion. Whatever it is that you are doing and wherever it is that you are, stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you bad motherfuckers again next week.